The wealth gap in the Kasa Civilization Federation is so massive, it's suffocating. But to Chun Mang, that wasn't a problem. It was an opportunity. The more concentrated the resources, the easier they were to rob. No need to run all over the universe hunting for prey. He just needed to aim straight at Kasa and the surrounding level 2 civilizations, sweep them all clean, and then head straight west to where the race civilization reigned. Negotiate? No need. Robbing them and using the loot is the real thrill. 2 billion units of iron ore were thrown into the planetary train, exchanged for 4 seemingly ordinary level 200 super-spec effects. But from a cultivator's perspective, those were heaven-defying pills, an opportunity to trade for an entire civilization. In the bustling night of Sanshui City, amidst the memory bank and unfamiliar cultivators carrying inner demons, Chun Mang gradually realized that his infinite money-printing machine could print not just resources, but power, civilizations, and a new order for the universe. Let's continue following Chun Mang into the next episode. I have to say, the wealth gap in the Kasa Civilization Federation is truly massive. But massive is good. The bigger, the better. The bigger the gap, the more concentrated the resources. Once his train leveled up in the future, he wouldn't need to run around robbing places anymore. He'd just target the Kasa civilization and the other 239 level 2 civilizations first, then head straight west for the race civilization. Resources in your hands are just a waste. You might as well hand them straight to me. Honestly, he had even considered negotiating with the Kasa civilization. I can upgrade infinitely. No matter how many resources there are, I can digest them all. Meanwhile, you guys are being choked to death by the Murphy's Stone. You can only mass-produce decently strong trains, but you can't create a single exceptionally powerful one. You might as well pool all your resources for me. I'll get stronger instantly, wipe out the race civilization, and lead you deeper into the universe. By then, your civilization's level will definitely be higher than it is now, and your territory will be vastly larger. No matter how you look at it, it's the optimal plan. But that's impossible. He stopped thinking about it. Not being captured and imprisoned was already a huge concession from the Kasa civilization. A real man doesn't beg for scraps. Snatching it with my own hands and using it is the real thrill. After throwing in 2 billion units of iron ore, the planetary train immediately gained 4 emergency super-spec effects. Level 200 moldy bread production line super-spec effect can write information onto moldy bread. Once eaten, that information will never be forgotten. Level 200 steamed bun production line super-spec effect. After consumption, you can choose to erase a portion of your memories with pinpoint accuracy. Level 200 custom clothing production line super-spec effect. The clothes produced have a certain defensive effect. Level 200 Coca-Cola production line can completely eliminate all impurities in the body. Chun Mang looked at these 4 emergency super-spec effects and pondered for a moment. They were definitely powerful, but he couldn't think of how to use them just yet. The first 2 effects were quite similar to the memory bank, but much cheaper. As for the latter 2, Xiao AI, go check the specific data for the last 2 effects. See exactly how strong the defense is, and find out to what extent completely eliminating all impurities in the body actually means. Understood. Having handled that, Chun Mang stretched, stood up, and prepared to go out for a stroll around Sanshui City. Nighttime is when a bustling city truly shows its true colors. But right before leaving, he remembered something. He seemed to have forgotten to ask why those luxury store employees called Zhou Shun 7th Master. The name Zhou Shun and the number 7 didn't seem related at all. I'll have to ask him clearly next time we meet. Sanshui City at night was brilliantly illuminated. Chun Mang walked in front, leaning on his cane, escorted from behind by Biaozi, Lao Zhu, Zhang Yi, and Zhang Er. Qiu Yizhao walked beside him, constantly introducing the local specialties. That entertainment club over there is the biggest one in Sanshui City. It has over 4,000 girls in total, all kinds from different civilizations. The Datong civilization, the Hongshin civilization. Many tourists who come here have to experience it at least once. Tonight was supposed to be Zhou Shun's celebration banquet. Logically, he should be there socializing right now. But a minor hiccup occurred, and now he didn't need to pay any attention to Zhou Shun at all. Just clinging tightly to the big shot in front of him was enough. Why beat around the bush? Meng suddenly stopped and pointed at a familiar store in the distance. That is, the memory bank. Yes, yes, Qiu Yizhao quickly replied. In recent years, quite a few trains have come to explore the ruins of the mechanical civilization. They discovered a lot of technology, like the memory bank, which can erase or implant a segment of memory. The core technologies of the mechanical civilization were ultimately bought up by the Kasa civilization, who then authorized other civilizations to open chain stores. The vast majority of the profits flow into the hands of the Kasa civilization. The memory bank is just one of them. Quite interesting. Meng chuckled lightly, his gaze darkening. He suddenly realized that Neon City still had a lot of things left to exploit. It seemed this serendipity map wasn't available on every planet. It was exclusive to planet Shualam, completely unique. Just then, he noticed a middle-aged man wearing a Taoist robe, a long sword slung across his back. His aura was completely different from his surroundings as he walked briskly into the memory bank. This is a cultivator from the neighboring cultivation civilization. Qiu Yizhao explained. Cultivators often encounter inner demons during their cultivation, preventing them from breaking through to the next realm. Whenever that happens, they come to the memory bank to erase the memories causing the inner demons, allowing them to break through smoothly. But planet Xuanwu, where the cultivation civilization is located, also has memory banks. He shouldn't have needed to travel this far. He must have another purpose. Let's go in and take a look, Meng said with interest, a sudden thought flashing through his mind. The God-tier super-spec effects of the single bed, the steamed bun production line, and the Coca-Cola production line. Placed inside the planetary train, they looked quite ordinary. Absolute peace of mind, memory erasure, and impurity cleansing, respectively. But if placed in a cultivation civilization, then they would become a mind-calming bed, a demon-cleansing pill, and a marrow-cleansing pill. Each one would be worth a fortune, especially since his manufacturing costs were absurdly low. A single unit of iron ore could produce a marrow-cleansing pill, and the effects were even better. The interface clearly stated the word completely. Just thinking about it was enough to give someone a heart attack. It could completely eliminate all impurities in the body. He wondered if something like a marrow-cleansing pill even existed in the cultivation civilization. If it did, then this cultivation civilization was about to experience the terrifying impact of a surplus production region directly invading a deficit production region. He could definitely make an absolute fortune from this. The only downside was, if there was some alchemist in the cultivation civilization who had spent their entire life only knowing how to refine marrow-cleansing pills, they would very likely go unemployed. Poor kid. Furthermore, this marrow-cleansing pill wouldn't just be sold to the cultivation civilization. Other civilizations could absolutely buy it too. Who wouldn't want their body to be a little healthier? He needed a massive merchant guild. A guild that could help him distribute the ultra-low-cost supplies from his train across all civilizations. Nearly 10,000 civilizations, billions upon billions of living beings. Even if he only earned exactly 1 unit of iron ore from each person, that number would still be astronomical. Thinking of this, Meng looked at Qiu Yizhao beside him, the corners of his mouth curling up. Wasn't there a merchant guild president right here beside him? If all went well, he'd test the waters with the cultivation civilization first. Once successful, he'd expand to the nearly 100 civilizations in Star System 27. It just so happened that Qiu Yizhao was a local and not too conspicuous. Meanwhile, he just needed to hide behind the scenes and collect the money. When in a strange place, letting a local step forward to rake in the profits was always the safest bet. A brilliant golden path stretching straight to the heavens suddenly appeared in his mind. He couldn't help but smirk, leaning on his cane as he walked briskly toward the memory bank. He wanted to ask that cultivator a few things about the cultivation civilization. As soon as he pushed the door open, the staff member at the entrance greeted him with a bright smile. Welcome. There weren't many people in the store. Besides them, there was only that cultivator. Biaozi followed behind, leaned in close to the staff member's ear, whispered a few words, and then looked at him expectantly. He had previously wanted to sell this precious memory at the memory bank in Neon City, but couldn't because his spiritual power wasn't strong enough. Now that his spiritual power was sufficient, there would definitely be no problem this time. The staff member looked a bit weirded out, hesitated for a moment, and tentatively offered 1,000 units of iron ore. Then he added, "Sir, this isn't exactly a rare memory. It's not worth much. We even have memories here about making love to a dragon. Do you want it?" Biaozi fell silent. Without a word, he quietly stepped back behind Master Mang. Times really have changed. There was a time when this memory of his could have sold for a hefty sum at the memory bank in Neon City. What a pity. Chen Mang tilted his head to look at the staff member beside him, his eyes filled with contemplation. Sure enough, a single falling leaf is enough to signal the coming of autumn. If Biaozi's memory was valuable in Neon City, but worthless here, then there was only one possibility. The number of goblins in the mechanical civilization was very small, but in the Casa Civilization Federation, there were quite a lot. There might even be an entire civilization of them. Excellent. It seemed the promise he had made to Daba finally had a lead. Perhaps he really could help Daba become the true Goblin King. Right at that moment, the cultivator in the Taoist robe finished his transaction with the staff and walked into a small room nearby. Because he arrived late, he didn't hear what service the man had chosen. He then sat down on the sofa in the lobby, waiting patiently. It wouldn't be too late to ask once the man came out. Another staff member walked over with a professional smile and excellent service attitude. "May I ask what service you'd like to choose? We can erase memories, implant memories, or buy memories. The options are very diverse." "No need." Chen Mang waved his hand, his tone indifferent. "We're waiting for someone. We're not implanting any memories." "Then how about selling a memory?" The staff member asked patiently. "Who knows? A seemingly ordinary period in your life might fetch a high price. Memory appraisal is completely free, and it's strictly confidential. We never disclose any of our clients' privacy." "No need, thanks." Chen Mang shook his head again. He obviously knew he had an incredibly valuable memory, his memory of transmigrating. Even in Neon City, it had been appraised at an astronomical price, but he absolutely would not sell it. To him, losing a piece of memory was no different from losing a part of his body. His life would become incomplete. Painful memories might be unpleasant, but it's because of them that people understand more truths and feel their own existence more clearly. The God-tier super-spec effect of the steamed bun production line allowed for memory erasure, but he had never intended to use it. Bitterness and sweetness only exist because of their contrast. A person who only experiences happiness their entire life and never goes through pain will very likely end up destroying themselves. "Then I'll go pour some water for you all." The staff member didn't press further, simply pouring tea for everyone politely. "You're quite interesting." Chen Mang chuckled. "I thought you'd kick us out if we weren't spending any money." He really hadn't expected the service attitude here to be this good. They clearly had no intention of spending money, yet the staff member wasn't annoyed at all and even took the initiative to serve them water. It made him feel a bit unaccustomed. It had been a long time since he'd met someone this decent. "You're joking, sir. A guest is a treasure. There's no reason to chase guests away." The staff member laughed along for a bit before stepping back, but inwardly, he couldn't help cursing. Bullshit. Anyone who could walk into this store was basically a train captain. Without a train, one's spiritual power simply wouldn't meet the standard for the procedure. Every single one of them was a big shot with immense power, while he was just a lowly wage slave making 12,000 units of iron or a month. How would he dare kick a customer out? The two sides weren't even on the same level. A casual remark from them could determine not just his career, but his very life and death. His mouth said a guest is a treasure, but his heart said a guest is my grandpa. Anyone who dared step in here was far from ordinary. Let alone not spending money. Even if they spat in his face, he'd still have to greet them with a bright smile. This wasn't a service attitude. It was survival wisdom. Not long after, the cultivator strode out, went to the cashier, took a few pieces of iron ore from his robes, and placed them on the counter. He glanced at Chun Mang's group sitting on the sofa, then left the store. His expression wasn't great, as if something heavy was weighing on his mind. "Keep up." Chen Mang watched the middle-aged man walk out of the memory bank, leaned on his cane, and stood up to follow. The middle-aged man walking down the street seemed to notice them too. He quickened his pace, taking left and right turns. Finally, he stopped right in front of the Sanshui City Law Enforcement Bureau, turned around, and asked, "Gentlemen, is there a problem?" "Oh." Chen Mang stopped, glanced at the sign next to him, and sighed. These past few years, I've been understanding people's methods less and less. I thought you'd take a detour to find a deserted alley to talk. Do I look stupid to you? The middle-aged man calmly shook the steel cuffs on his wrists. There are so many of you, and I'm all alone and cuffed. Wouldn't going into a deserted alley be asking for death? If you have something to say it here. I won't wait if it takes too long. I trust the Sanshui City Law Enforcement Bureau, and I trust the Choa civilization won't turn a blind eye to violence. If you're planning to rob me, you've got the wrong guy. Chen Meng sized him up for a moment. Aside from the Taoist robe, there was almost no trace of a cultivator on him. He chuckled. Don't be tense. We're good people. Bad people also say they're good people. Yeah, that's a fair point. Chen Meng nodded, then continued. We're just curious and wanted to ask a few things. Like your cultivation base, and the situation in the cultivation civilization. Of course, we won't ask for free. The compensation will be generous. No need. The middle-aged man took a few more steps back toward the Law Enforcement Bureau's gate, his eyes full of vigilance. If you want to know, go to Planet Xuanwu yourselves. Train tickets aren't expensive. You guys can probably afford them. The commotion here had already attracted the attention of the guards. Come back here. Chen Meng was getting a bit annoyed. I'm trying to have a serious conversation. If you back up any further, you'll be inside the Law Enforcement Bureau. You're acting like we're trying to rob you. My legs are numb. Just stretching them. The middle-aged man kept a straight face, took a few more steps back, and walked right through the gate. Chen Meng sighed and tapped his wristwatch. Very quickly, Zhou Shen's voice came through, so quiet it was obvious he was hiding somewhere eavesdropping. Hello? Do you know anyone in the Sanshui City Law Enforcement Bureau? Which bureau? I've got a few bureau chiefs at my celebration banquet right now. Bureau 7. He's here, but we just met. I can't ask him for any major favors. It's a small matter. A friend of mine ran into the courtyard of Bureau 7. Just ask him to put in a word and bring the guy out. No problem. What does he look like? Wearing a Taoist robe. A cultivator. Give me a sec. 3 minutes later, the middle-aged man was escorted out of the Sanshui City Law Enforcement Bureau by 2 officers and brought straight to Chen Meng. Boss, this man is your friend? Yeah. Chen Meng waved his hand. Lao Zhu took out 2 units of level 4 iron ore and handed it to them. After thanking him, the 2 officers returned to the courtyard. Well? Chen Meng smiled at the middle-aged man. Let's see if your legs are still numb now. The middle-aged man stayed silent for a long time before speaking. I always used to trust the Law Enforcement Bureau of the Choa civilization. Now it seems they're no different from ours. Ready to talk now? Gentlemen, whatever senior wants to ask, I'll tell you everything I know. Just a moment ago you were calling us, you guys. I'm inferior to you, so naturally, you are senior. Follow me. Chen Meng leaned on his cane and walked forward along the sidewalk. Zhang Er followed behind, looked down at the middle-aged man, and grinned. Let's go, little friend. After twisting and turning through 7 or 8 corners, they finally arrived at a small alley. It was the same familiar gloomy alley. A dead end. Zhang Yi, Zhang Er, and Qiu Yizhao stood blocking the entrance of the alley. Phew. Chen Meng exhaled softly, glanced around, then looked up at the starry sky above, nodding in satisfaction. This place definitely has a more fitting atmosphere. Zhang Qiudao, cultivation base. Golden core, 7th layer. Chen Meng said thoughtfully. Golden core 7th layer. That's roughly equivalent to the power of a level 27 firepower accessory, right? It's stronger. Even though Zhang Qiudao was in a disadvantaged position, his voice was still full of pride as he slightly raised his head. At the 7th layer of Golden Core, a full power strike can reach the might of a level 27 firepower accessory of 7-color grade. A 7-color accessory. Not that garbage like white or green grade. If I risk my life and burn my cultivation base using a desperate technique, the power could even match a level 28 7-color firepower accessory. You seem very proud. Chen Meng looked at the middle-aged man in front of him, his expression a bit weird. He really didn't understand what there was to be proud of. Of course. Zhang Qiudao scoffed coldly. If I wasn't cuffed, just the few of you. But he quickly realized his current situation, coughed lightly, and changed his tune. It's just a minor path. Compared to mechanical trains, it's still far inferior. How long did it take you to cultivate to the 7th layer of Golden Core? I am the third elder of the poison snake sect. My talent is extraordinary. I entered the sect at 16 and was tested to have an extremely rare dual spirit root. At 18, I stepped into the first layer of chi condensation. At 29, I broke through to foundation establishment. At 89, I became a golden core ancestor. I am 198 years old this year, at the 7th layer of golden core. His words were full of pride, as if this cultivation speed was astonishingly fast. Chen Meng counted on his fingers. It took 182 years just to reach this level. If he didn't die in the next 182 years, saying he could blow up the universe might be an exaggeration, but slaughtering the Kasa civilization or the race civilization would absolutely be a piece of cake. Cultivation really is very time-consuming. Very good. Impressive. He still offered a polite compliment before getting straight to the point. Does your cultivation civilization have marrow cleansing pills? Basically, a type of pill that cleanses impurities in the body. Yes, that's the exact name. Zhang Qiudao nodded. It's a pill meant for qi condensation cultivators. Taking a total of 108 pills during the qi condensation stage can completely cleanse the impurities in the body. It raises one's potential, allows for a higher cultivation limit, and greatly increases the chances of a flawless foundation establishment. You need to use sect contribution points and spirit stones to buy them. Spirit stones are what you guys call iron ore. If you're tight on money, there are also packs of 64 or 18 pills. The effects are just weaker, and they can't cleanse completely. How much is one pill? The marrow cleansing pill is a low-tier pill. Many alchemists can refine them in large quantities, hundreds per furnace. The price is about 100 grade 1 spirit stones per pill. So 100 units of iron ore. That's not expensive then. Chen Meng nodded thoughtfully, took a can of Coca-Cola from Lao Zhu, and held it out to Zhang Qiudao, his eyes carrying a hint of anticipation. Try this. It's a new version of the marrow cleansing pill I just researched. Zhang Qiudao looked expressionlessly at the opened can and the pitch-black liquid inside, refusing to take it. You don't know? This thing is called Coca-Cola. I know. Zhang Qiudao cut him off. A product from the Mechanical Train's Coca-Cola production line. They sell it in the cultivation civilization too, but few people buy it. I've drank it before. So cultivators drink Coke too. Chen Meng asked with interest. Do you guys smoke? Yes. You actually smoke? Chen Meng was a bit surprised. Aren't cultivators the most taboo about impurities? True, but the process of expelling impurities is very refreshing. Zhang Qiudao said calmly. Some foundation establishment and golden core cultivators even intentionally accumulate impurities just to expel them all at once. Then try this one. Zhang Qiudao finally took the can of Coke, pulled out a silver needle, and dipped it in to test it. After confirming the needle didn't change color, he hesitantly brought it to his mouth and took a small sip. The next moment, he froze slightly, instinctively grabbed the can, and chugged it down, his throat gulping continuously. Almost instantly, black impurities began seeping from his pores. His face flushed red, and his breathing grew heavy. He clamped his legs together, his back constantly rubbing against the wall. A soft moan unconsciously escaped his lips, and his initially vigilant eyes gradually became hazy. Chen Meng walked out of the alley expressionlessly, leaving Zhang Qiudao alone to expel his toxins. He stood at the mouth of the alley, quietly lit a cigarette, looked up at the high-rise building ahead, and sighed. The good news, his Coke actually worked. The bad news. This can of Coke, aside from replacing the marrow cleansing pill, was clearly imbued with other effects. This wasn't exactly what Chen Meng had initially speculated. 10 minutes later, he put out his cigarette, returned to the alley, looked at the middle-aged man slumped limply on the ground, and asked, "How are the effects?" "Very good." Zhang Qiudao struggled to stand up, leaning against the wall, his voice trembling with excitement. "Extremely pure. It's just that because my cultivation base is sealed, I couldn't resist the medicinal properties, so the potency went to my head a bit. This is the strongest marrow cleansing pill I've ever seen, even if it's in liquid form. Furthermore, you absolutely don't need 108 of them. Just one bottle is enough to thoroughly purify all the impurities in the body. Normally speaking, after taking a full course of 108 marrow cleansing pills, you can only eliminate about 90 to 99% of impurities. This variance depends on the grade of the pills and the skill of the alchemist. The kind that can reach 99% costs at least 5,000 spirit stones per pill, and even then, they're priceless and out of stock. But the marrow cleansing pill Senior gave me. Zhang Xiaodao took a deep breath. The effect is enough to eliminate 100% of impurities. It completely crushes all the marrow cleansing pills currently circulating on the market. This is the absolute strongest marrow cleansing pill. Nothing compares to it. Chen Meng stood there, leaning on his cane, and smiled. Then help me appraise it. How much would be a reasonable price to sell this bottle of Coke in your cultivation world? Zhang Xiaodao lowered his head, his eyes gradually clearing up as he began to calculate seriously. For every 1% increase in effectiveness, the price doubles. If it's 99%, then 108 marrow cleansing pills would cost about 540,000 low-grade spirit stones, which is 540,000 units of iron ore. This one is 100%. The price would definitely be astronomically high. It would attract a bidding war from countless top-tier sects and hidden families. It would have to be at least 1 million spirit stones a bottle. Chen Meng nodded, quite satisfied. We met today amidst a sea of people. Consider it fate. I want you to be my exclusive agent. You and the Poison Snake sect will be responsible for helping me distribute this marrow-cleansing pill in your civilization. I'll pay you handsomely. But the selling price needs to be adjusted. No need for 1 million spirit stones. Just 1,998 spirit stones. A flash of shock crossed Zhang Xiaodao's eyes. 1,998 spirit stones. Even the lowest quality marrow cleansing pills cost 10,800 spirit stones for a batch of 108. This single bottle of Coke is enough for a full course, eliminates 100% of impurities, and you're only selling it for that price. He could almost imagine the scene that was about to unfold. A frenzy of looting. Everyone fighting for a bottle. From now on, no one in the entire cultivation world would ever buy marrow-cleansing pills refined by alchemists again. They would only buy Coke, the best product at the lowest price. How do you think the market will react to this price? I can't speak for the market, Zhang Xiaodao smiled bitterly, but the battlefield definitely won't be peaceful. Senior is indeed bestowing an opportunity upon me, but this is an opportunity that I and the Poison Snake sect will truly have a hard time swallowing. Smashing the rice bowls of so many alchemists and getting tangled up in countless interests. Many sects and families will besiege the Poison Snake sect. The sect's destruction would only be a matter of time. How will Senior protect us? What is the cultivation base of the strongest person in the cultivation world right now? On the surface, it's the 9th layer of nascent soul. A soul formation ancestor hasn't appeared in a long time. 9th layer of nascent soul. Equivalent to level 39. Does your cultivation world have puppets? Yes, our Poison Snake sect specializes in puppets. The sect's name doesn't sound like it. We used to be demonic cultivators. The previous sect master felt there was no future in it, so we switched to puppets. We just didn't change the name. Chen Meng smiled. I'll provide you with a batch of 9th layer nascent soul puppets for support. One probably isn't enough. Wait, a batch? Yes, a batch. Chen Meng patted Zhang Xiaodao's shoulder. Well, excited? From today onward, your Poison Snake sect will be the strongest faction in the cultivation world. Unstoppable. And you will be my exclusive supplier. I'm not comfortable with you being the third elder. You have to be the sect master. Senior, I've never had any intention of betraying them. The sect master treats me very well. But I only acknowledge you. The sect master can only be you. If, Zhang Xiaodao muttered absent-mindedly, if we have enough marrow-cleansing pills of this quality, plus a large number of 9th layer nascent soul puppets, then we really could earn a massive amount of spirit stones. But for something so good, why price it so low? Even if you sold it for 10,000 spirit stones, there would absolutely be no shortage of buyers. Because I want to earn everyone's spirit stones. Chen Meng smiled faintly. If the price is too high, some people won't be able to afford it. Don't worry about the rich. I have other products to sell to them. He laughed after saying that, a hint of anticipation suddenly rising in his heart. He wondered what the cultivation world would look like after he was done flooding their market. Everyone's potential skyrocketing. Everyone becoming like a dragon. From a certain perspective, Chen Mang could be considered to have significantly elevated the foundation and potential of an entire civilization. Calling him a saint might be an exaggeration, but at the very least, he had laid the groundwork. Since you and I hit it off right away, and our talk went so smoothly, then I invite you to come hang out on my train for a few days. I have a matter to handle these next few days. Once it's done, I'll personally lead an army of puppets to escort you back to your sect and help you ascend to the position of sect master. Oh right, forgot to ask. What did you come to the Chioha civilization for? To erase a memory. Erase what memory? Since it's erased, naturally, I've forgotten. Your cultivation civilization also has memory banks. Why not erase it there? Forgot that too. All right then. Chen Mang turned and signaled to Zhang Yi and Zhang Er, standing at the mouth of the alley. Very quickly, Zhang Yi strode in, carrying a refrigerator on his shoulder. Please, step inside. What a fertile land. Inside the cabin of the planetary train, Chen Mang sat in his chair, looking at the information Xiao AI had gathered from Zhang Qiudao after questioning him. His eyes were a bit distant as he muttered. The iron ore reserves of the cultivation civilization weren't the highest in the entire Casa Civilization Federation. They weren't even that high. After all, it was a habitable planet. It was very rare to have a lot of high-grade iron ore. But to make up for it, they had been around long enough. The amount of iron ore they had accumulated was massive. This was also the fatal flaw of the cultivation civilization. No matter how many spirit stones they had, they couldn't immediately convert them into combat power. Accumulating for so long, to the point where everyone coveted it, naturally turned them into a juicy piece of meat. He needed to prepare in advance, not just to deal with the siege from the experts of the cultivation world, but also to guard against the prying eyes of other civilizations. This was an incredibly lucrative operation. It would easily make others green with envy. He needed to deal with those petty thieves without drawing the attention of the higher-tier civilizations. For now, he'd just used the cultivation civilization as a pilot run to see exactly how much this operation could pull in. Thinking of this, he decided to go to sleep first. When he woke up tomorrow morning, he still had to go hijack that batch of precision equipment being transported by the Jiang family's merchant guild. Thinking back on it, he realized he had been busy all day today. Chen Mang felt a bit tired. He took off his clothes, showered, lay down on the bed, and quickly fell asleep. That night, he slept very well. But some people didn't. For example, Zhou Shen. In the manor on the outskirts of Sanshui City, it was completely dark. The celebration banquet had ended, and the noisy clamor gradually faded away. After seeing off the last guest, Zhou Shen stumbled into his bedroom. The moment he closed the door, his previously cloudy eyes instantly became sharp and sober. He sat in a chair, watching the branches swaying in the wind outside the courtyard, then looked down at his wristwatch. His expression flickered between light and shadow. He remained silent for a long time, ultimately choosing to stay quiet. He didn't tell anyone about Master Mang's existence. He didn't speak of the faction backing him, nor did he tell the Jiang family. He really didn't want to get dragged into this muddy water. He just wanted to live his little life in peace. But very often, things weren't up to him. It was simply that he stood in the wrong place, at the wrong time, and met the wrong person. Besides staying silent, what else could he do? Master Mang's strength had already been displayed. A detection radar with an absurd range, spatial teleportation methods to an unknown habitable planet, and terrifying combat power. Although he hadn't witnessed that combat power with his own eyes, the first two conditions alone spoke volumes. It was highly likely that Master Mang still couldn't defeat the Casa civilization. Otherwise, he wouldn't be acting so cautiously. He could have just directly plundered the other civilizations and been done with it. There are many paths for a civilization to develop, but the fastest way to get rich in a short time has always been just one: plundering. After helping Master Mang finish this job, he would be considered firmly tied to the same boat, thoroughly stepping into Master Mang's interest group. He wasn't worried about being silenced either. There was no reason to do so. Meanwhile, inside the planetary train, Zhang Qiudao was standing on planet Shuelam, looking up at the deep blue sky, his heart full of bewilderment. Ever since their civilization was dubbed the Cultivation Civilization and joined the Casa Civilization Federation, the entire world's landscape had completely changed. That was a matter from several hundred years ago, before he was even born. He had only heard the elders tell tales that there used to be many other cultivation civilizations in the surrounding area, but they had all been wiped out. They had even heard this news from the train captains themselves. In the past, they all knew that there were still other planets around where cultivators existed. In recent years, the passion for cultivation across the entire cultivation world had severely declined. Even if you cultivated to the 9th layer of nascent soul and became the strongest in the cultivation world, so what? You still couldn't match a mechanical train. They cultivated bitterly for hundreds, even thousands of years, while a mechanical train only needed a few years to reach a higher realm. Not to mention, a 9th layer nascent soul cultivator fundamentally couldn't survive in space, let alone engage in combat or long-distance travel. In the past, the cultivation world believed that after breaking through to soul formation, they would ascend to the immortal realm. But after understanding the situation of the universe outside, everyone began to wonder, does the immortal realm really exist? After reaching soul formation, where would they actually ascend to? Many times, Zhang Qiudao had thought, had their cultivation civilization been abandoned? Why could all the other civilizations activate the train captain's token to build mechanical trains, but only they couldn't? Or to put it another way, the universe is fair. In the entire universe, only their cultivation civilization could cultivate. The other civilizations couldn't. It was just that this fairness, for them, put them at a disadvantage. They would rather not have this kind of fairness. Zhang Qiudao vaguely remembered why he had come to the Chua civilization. It was the last time he was pondering this issue. He seemed to have thought of an incredibly terrifying possibility. He had touched upon some taboo, making him constantly feel enveloped by an invisible killing intent. Only after erasing the memory could he return to peace. But why didn't he erase the memory at the memory bank on his own planet? Why did he have to specifically run to the Chua civilization? Zhang Qiudao sat on the ground, falling into deep thought. He suddenly realized that erasing a memory was inherently a false proposition. When a piece of a person's memory is suddenly missing, the brain will subconsciously use cause and effect to constantly try and restore that erased memory. The whole process only brings more suffering. Where did that killing intent come from? From the universe? If using the terminology of the cultivation world, he must have done something against the heavenly Tao and sensed the heavenly Tao's killing intent. That means, divining the secrets of heaven invites divine punishment. Planetary Train Number 1 had been mining or for a full year on or Planet Number 1. During this year, many things had also happened on Planet Shualam. Although Master Mang had said that Planet Shualam would become a dead star in about 2 or 3 years, and by then, they would find another habitable planet for a mass migration. But after all, this was still the place they lived. Who wouldn't want it to get better? The desolate Snow Ridge region, Taiping City. The place where Chun Mang first started his enterprise, originally just a pile of ruins, had now completely transformed. With the coordination of a massive number of robots, all the dangerous structures in the city were demolished, and new high-rises sprang up from the ground one after another. Because Taiping City was where Chun Mang built his foundation, Master Mang also frequently appeared here. Therefore, Lao Zhu took it upon himself to order that Planet Shuilam's resources and population be prioritized for Taiping City. As a result, the city was now incredibly prosperous. Although not quite on par with Sanshui City, it was much more bustling than Taiping City before the apocalypse. Outside the city were patches of fruit orchards and all kinds of agricultural products, brimming with vitality. In the quiet dead of night, most people on the train were asleep. Lao Zhu, escorted by a few people, was out patrolling his achievements. Over the past year, all resource allocation and development on Planet Shualam had been entirely under his charge, especially Taiping City, where he had poured his heart and soul. He was extremely satisfied. From very early on, the residents of Planet Shualam no longer had to eat bread. The level 50 superspec effect of the spatial gate made the soil inside help crops grow faster and taste better. After the train upgraded to level 15, it also gained a growth acceleration function, significantly shortening the farming cycle. And Planet Shualam was obviously judged to be within the train's range. This made the maturation time for crops here extremely short. Coupled with the gradual recovery of basic industries, Planet Shualam had long since stopped lacking food. Everyone ate their fill and ate well. the standard of living was much higher than during the apocalypse. For a civilization, high-end combat power can rely on mechanical trains, but basic industries can't solely depend on them. In the Casa Civilization Federation, no civilization let its people eat moldy bread every day. Lao Zhu walked with his hands clasped behind his back, nodding continuously. The mayor of Taiping City followed behind, reporting as they walked. Captain Zhu, under the leadership of Master Mang and yourself, we have weathered the storms and resolved all difficulties. We have now basically achieved comprehensive sustainable development. All livelihood issues have been thoroughly resolved. This is an achievement recognized by all residents. Lao Zhu laughed heartily and nodded. It's mainly because of Master Mang's good leadership. I'm just the one doing the work. How is everyone living now? Guaranteed distribution. The mayor quickly continued. All residents are guaranteed housing, guaranteed jobs, and even guaranteed marriages. Following Captain Zhu's directives, all youths of the same age group are arranged in the same area. Their main task is to get married and have children. Last year, 1,398 babies were born. This is only the first year. It's estimated that a year from now, the number of newborns could reach the tens of thousands. Everyone has their own job. Those with high contributions will enjoy better living conditions. The currency unit is the planetary ticket. Recently, director Zhang Yiren's new movie is also about to premiere and sell tickets for the first time on planet Shuelam. The market economy is gradually being promoted, striving to ensure all residents have a comfortable life. People, Lao Zhu stopped, turned his head to look at the high rises of Taiping City behind him, stayed silent for a moment, then clasped his hands behind his back. He spoke slowly. In this life, everyone will eventually have desires. Wanting a better house, wanting more wealth, wanting a higher status. That's called progress. We must allow for this progress. But at the same time, there is also a group of people who just want to hide in their homes and live quietly. They don't want to stand out. They just want to quietly observe this world. We must also tolerate the existence of this group of people and provide them with certain social welfare. At the very least, I don't want to see anyone die of starvation, illness, or thirst. There haven't been any suicides this year, right? None. The suicide rate is 0. That's good. This rate must be kept at 0 forever. Do you understand? Very good. Lao Zhu imitated Master Mang's tone, looked around once more, and felt nothing but a sense of accomplishment in his heart. A year ago, this place was still a wasteland, the city full of ruins. In just 1 year, it has transformed day by day. His contribution was by no means small. It was just that thinking about the time of the mass migration, when all these achievements would turn to dust along with planet Shuelam, he couldn't help but feel a bit of regret. What a pity. Are those strict train captains still causing trouble lately? Not anymore. The mayor of Taiping City shook his head. Only at first were there some captains who couldn't adapt. After dealing with that group, the rest have all stabilized. After all, they used to bear immense pressure as train captains. Now their status is lower, but they don't have to carry that kind of burden. There are no monsters. I'm not sure about the specific data for other cities, but recently Taiping City has accumulated quite a bit of iron ore, all mined from the surrounding deposits. Lao Zhu smiled and nodded. There are no high-grade ore deposits around Taiping City. Most are level 1 ore, and even level 2 ore is rare. But he had opened up a small perk, allowing the residents mining in Taiping City to directly take shuttle ships to the high-grade resource mining areas. Just keep accumulating it for now. Once there's enough, I'll report it to Master Mang. Right now, the ore accumulated on planet Shuelam is still too little. Master Mang hasn't even noticed it yet. Wait until it accumulates for a while longer. When I report it, Master Mang will definitely be surprised. This could be considered his effective governance. How could it not count as a merit? Outside it was chaotic, but inside the planetary train, development was incredibly orderly. Morning had arrived. A new day began. Chen Meng woke up, washed up, and sat down at the control console. He lit a cigarette, opened the train's log, quickly skimmed through the accessory consumption items, and checked the total consumption. After confirming there was nothing unusual, he moved on to check other items, like the CB or mine, to see if anyone had been injured last night. Once he finished verifying all the information, He used his wristwatch to contact Zhou Shun, signaling that he could come over. Today was the right time to make a move. Today's objective: intercept and hijack the batch of precision instruments from the Jiang family's merchant guild. But before that, they needed an acquaintance of the Jiang family to lower the merchant guild's guard. Feiyang Technology Company in Sanshui City wasn't a bad choice. Biaozi had already set out early with Zhang Yi, Zhang Er, and Qi Kexiu. Through Qi Kexiu, they lured out the middle-aged man from Feiyang Technology Company in Sanshui City. And from there, they continued to pull out the higher-ups, layer by layer. Very quickly, Xiao AI's voice echoed in the cabin. Captain, Biaozi's side has finished their operation. A complete success. They are currently bringing the refrigerator and preparing to pick up Zhou Shun. Excellent. The refrigerator was indeed very useful. It only had one obvious flaw. The last person to step into the refrigerator couldn't take it with them. The refrigerator would stay where it was. Later, Biaozi and the others would have to temporarily leave this refrigerator in Zhou Shun's manner. No one would casually crawl inside, because without authorization, opening it would just reveal a normal refrigerator. They wouldn't even see the 100-square-meter space inside. It was just a bit of a waste. After all, crafting a level 200 refrigerator wasn't cheap. Half an hour later, Biaozi, Xiu Yizhao, and Zhou Shun were all gathered in the control room. There was also an unfamiliar middle-aged man. It was the very same guy who had kicked Qi Kexiu out of the company gates the other day. Are you guys crazy? What do you want? Do you know who I am? How dare you kidnap me? Lay one finger on me, and you'll all be buried with me. The middle-aged man screamed, struggling in a fit of rage. Biaozi looked expectantly at Qi Kexiu standing beside him. Seeing him just lower his head in silence, Biaozi couldn't help but sigh. Boring. This is the part where you're supposed to step up and say, 30 years east of the river, 30 years west of the river. You've got a chance to slap his face and you don't even know how to use it. He then approached Chun Mang and reported in a low voice. Master Mang, we only managed to catch this guy. According to Qi Kexiu, he's a team leader in the company. They used to be rivals. Sanshui City has too many cameras, so we decided to pull back first, and then find a chance to grab someone with a higher status. Chun Mang nodded slightly. This space cargo interception requires close-quarters combat. We have to breach the enemy train and subdue the captain immediately to ensure the cargo remains absolutely intact. That also means we need someone with a high enough status to trick the enemy into opening the train doors themselves. Just as Chun Mang was about to say something, the tied-up middle-aged man thrown in the corner suddenly sneered arrogantly. You guys don't actually think I'm just a team leader, do you? Let me tell you. I am actually the eldest son of a high-ranking executive in the Jiang family. Being transferred down to the company was just for training, to gain some experience. The lives of everyone in Sanshui City combined aren't worth as much as mine. The Jiang family is one of the top major families in the entire Chioa civilization. Where do you get the nerve to touch me? Release me at once, and I can pretend today never happened. 2 paths. Choose for yourselves. After he finished speaking, everyone in the control room simultaneously turned their heads to look at him with extremely weird expressions. Biaozi asked in a low voice. Is this guy qualified enough? More than enough. Chun Mang shook his head and laughed. This is more like it. Fits my stereotypical impression of rich young masters perfectly. Drag him down. Prepare to depart. Qi Kexiu. Realizing that these people weren't afraid of his background at all, a flash of panic finally appeared in the middle-aged man's eyes. He screamed, glaring at Qi Kexiu. Are you behind this? You sent people to kidnap me. How dare you? Qi Kexiu said nothing, simply averting his gaze quietly from those vicious eyes. Lao Zhu sighed softly and patted Qi Kexiu's shoulder. It's fine. You're just like me. We both do logistics. If you're timid, you're timid. It's not a problem. But being timid when you were alone was fine. Now that you have the planetary train backing you up, being like this won't do. You're too soft. The horn blared. The warehouse doors located in the wilderness outside Sanshui City slowly opened. The planetary train slowly left the warehouse, heading toward the spaceport. A spaceport and a dock are 2 different concepts. All trains entering the Chioa civilization must land at the spaceport, while only cargo trains need to enter the dock for inspection, payment, and taxation. Zhou Shun was in charge of the dock, but the spaceport wasn't under his jurisdiction. However, right now, the planetary train was operating under the name of the Izao Merchant Guild and wasn't on any wanted list, so it could come and go completely freely. The train quickly entered the spaceport, lifted off, and pierced through the atmosphere. Not long after, it left the planet, continued flying slowly for a bit, and then accelerated, shooting straight into deep space. Against the pitch-black backdrop, countless stars twinkled. The planetary train was like a giant mechanical dragon, gliding through the universe, dodging meteorites and space debris. At the same time, the waste generated from the mining operations of the planetary train and planet Shualam was casually dumped into space. An ideal graveyard. The target had been clearly identified. The Jiang family's merchant guild train. Maintaining the current speed, the two sides were expected to meet in 4 hours and 37 minutes. Chen Meng glanced at the control panel, then tilted his head and asked Zhang Yiren beside him. "How is it? Finished writing?" "Almost done, almost done." At this moment, Zhang Yiren was sitting at a desk in the control room, holding an extremely fine-tipped pen, rapidly writing on slices of bread. Next to him, over 10 slices of bread were already stacked up. This was his new idea. Chen Meng said nothing, just waited patiently. The level 200 superspec effect of the white-grade accessory, the moldy bread production line, was that after writing information on the bread and eating it, that memory would never be forgotten. It sounded like the memory bank and was cheaper, but the practical difference was huge. Implanting memories with bread didn't require spiritual power, nor did it need the subject's consent. Even if the target resisted, it could still be forcibly implanted. In theory, he could alter anyone's memories. It was just that the process was quite complicated, because he couldn't know the entirety of the target's original memories. So he could only implant memory fragments that didn't contradict logic and didn't go against the person's own habits. Leaving this task to Zhang Yiren was the most appropriate. The train really did need someone like him. Finally, Zhang Yiren wiped his sweat and put the pen down. Done. I didn't dare write too much, just added some fragmented memories. Childhood memories are inherently blurry. Tweaking them a bit makes it very hard for him to notice. Bring that guy up. Very quickly, the unconscious middle-aged man was brought up. Biaozi tried to stuff the bread into his mouth, but it was very difficult while he was unconscious. "Let me." Chi Kishio put on medical gloves and stepped forward, handling it his own way, preparing to forcibly implant the memories. He then balled up all dozen or so slices of bread into a lump and shoved it straight in. After that, he took a small vial from his pocket and squeezed a few drops of liquid in. The food began to decompose at a visible rate, digestion-assisting liquid. After finishing everything, Chi Kashio lowered his voice while suturing the wound. "Mr. President took me to inspect this train. There's quite a lot of black tech inside. For example, the simple medical kit. It's extremely effective at treating external wounds. This kind of surgery heals very quickly." Biaozi stood stunned, watching the scene unfold. After a long while, he muttered, "I thought you didn't dare to fight, or were afraid of blood." "I'm not." Chi Kishio shook his head, his voice deepening. "Not at all. I just prefer to work efficiently. He's a dying man anyway. Cursing at him a couple more times, or slapping him a few times, is meaningless." "You've got vision." Biaozi sighed in admiration and gave a thumbs up. "It just sounds not very smart." 20 minutes later, under everyone's gaze, the middle-aged man groggily woke up. He sat bolt upright on the operating table, his eyes darting around. Zhang Yiren, standing behind Chen Meng, quickly introduced, "This is Master Meng." The middle-aged man's expression instantly changed. He spun around, jumped to the ground, and dropped to one knee. "Foster father, you've finally come looking for me. All these years, why hasn't foster father ever come to see me even once?" He looked up at Chen Meng, about to say something more, when a flash of confusion crossed his eyes. "Is it because we haven't seen each other in so long? Why does foster father look so unfamiliar to me? It's like we've never met before." The next moment, the president standing beside him pressed a button, and the man instantly fell back asleep. "The retention rate isn't high," Zhang Yiren said, a bit embarrassed. "Memories are made up of many elements: text, images, sounds, even emotions and breathing patterns at the time. Bread can only implant text, So the resulting memory is like a castle in the sky. It can't withstand scrutiny. It can't compare to memories implanted by the memory bank, which uses real memories that actually happened, complete with emotions, images, and experiences. I tried to weave it into his blurry childhood memories, but it seems it'll only last for a few hours. After that, he'll realize something is wrong. That's enough. Chen Meng leaned back in his chair and smiled faintly. Just let him sleep. We'll wake him up when we're about to make contact. All right, everyone dismissed. Lao Zhu, take Qiu Yizhao and Zhou Shun on a tour of the train. There are people from now on. Understood. The scenery of the universe always makes it easy for people to lose themselves in it. Chen Meng leaned back in his chair in front of the control panel, looking at the pitch-black cosmic night ahead and the progress bar steadily shrinking on the screen. Estimated official contact in 1 minute. Wake him up. Chen Meng picked up the communicator and forced a transmission to the oncoming train. Halt. The Jiang family is here. Very quickly, even with the naked eye, one could see a train decelerating in the darkness of space. The captain of the Jiang family's merchant guild sat in his chair, looking at the private message that had just come through, his eyes full of vigilance. This batch of cargo was of no small value. Before departing, he had been strictly instructed not to let any mistakes happen. He wasn't going to easily believe just a single sentence. But the opposing train hadn't activated any energy shields and was heading straight toward him. In space, approaching without shields raised is the greatest sign of goodwill. There are almost no exceptions. Pirates always travel in formations. The other party clearly didn't fit the bill. Right at that moment, a voice rang out over the train's comms again. I am Jiang Sheng, team leader of Feiyang Technology Company in Sanshui City, and the eldest son of the Jiang family's number 2 figure. I have an important order to deliver in person. Open the train doors immediately. 23256. The captain confirmed in a deep voice. 23257. 28. 31. Jiang Sheng's voice rang out, sounding a bit tired. A moment later, a person wearing a spacesuit, using thrusters, slowly flew toward his train. The passcode is correct. The captain no longer had any doubts. He immediately turned to his deputy. Deactivate the energy shields. Open the train doors. Welcome young Master Jiang. He had met Jiang Sheng before. This voice was very familiar. A single person coming alone, even with bad intentions, could hardly cause any trouble. There was only one thing that puzzled him a bit. Why was Jiang Sheng carrying a refrigerator? Could it be that this order needed to be kept refrigerated? When the middle-aged man stepped onto the Jiang family's merchant guild train, he looked around. His previously cloudy eyes instantly became sharp and clear. He slammed the refrigerator onto the ground, his face twisting ferociously as he roared, quickly, raise the energy shields. Open fire. Open fire right now. They're pirates who kidnapped me to intercept the cargo. They even implanted chaotic memories into my head. The middle-aged man screamed, his voice frantic. I managed to trick them into letting me board alone. Strike first while they haven't reacted yet. Hurry. Seeing the captain in front of him still looking confused, he couldn't hold back his anger. He stepped forward quickly, about to say something else, when, rat-tat-tat. The deafening sound of gunfire suddenly erupted inside the train car. A sensation of pain and burning instantly swept through his nerves. In his fading vision, he saw countless bullets pierce through his body, flying straight toward the captain opposite him. In the final moment as he fell into a pool of blood, a thought flashed through his mind. Back in school, a teacher once said that just by blowing a single breath, the depths of the universe could erupt into a nuclear crisis because of that breath. At the time, he had sneered, thinking the two things were completely unrelated. But when death truly approached, he believed it. He suddenly regretted transferring Qi Kishio out of the company all those years ago. If that hadn't happened, maybe he wouldn't have died. A single personnel decision, traded for a human life. His life force drained away very quickly. Never before had he felt his life slipping away so clearly as he did now. His mind suddenly became unusually calm. No begging, no fear. It was as if he were standing outside, watching himself. Looking back on his entire life, it seemed, he hadn't even had the chance to say a proper goodbye to his wife. When he left home this morning, he hadn't finished the bowl of egg noodles his wife cooked. He had even made her mad and hadn't had time to coax her. He had planned to coax her after work. He never thought that would be the last time he ate egg noodles or the last time he saw his wife. The man's eyelids slowly closed. In the final moment of his life, he saw a pair of iron boots standing in the pool of blood beside him. Is it over? It's over. Biaozi, wearing iron boots, stepped into the pool of blood, holding a tsunami Gatling gun in his hands. He swept his gaze across the train car, then aimed at a few corpses on the ground and squeezed off a few more shots. Only then did he speak softly. "Mr. President, the captain's death is confirmed. Clean up the train." "Understood." With the captain dead, the train instantly became ownerless. If they delayed, the integrated firepower system alone would be enough to cause trouble. The operation had to be lightning fast. Breach, and shoot the captain dead before he could react. Biaozi waved his hand, signaling the team behind him. From inside the refrigerator, a massive number of armed black hole robots marched out, heading straight for the rear cars. Checking everyone, clearing everyone out. This operation was top secret. To prevent any information leaks, leave no survivors. Rat-tat-tat-tat. The rapid fire of guns echoed from the back of the train. Occasionally, a robot would get hit, collapsing amidst sparks of electrical arcs. Assigning the exploration and purging tasks to robots was the optimal choice. No emotions, no hesitation. 2 hours later, boom. The planetary train's Arcanon energy main cannon charged up for a few seconds, then fired straight into the nearby Jiang family merchant guild train. As the silent explosion of fire erupted in the depths of space, the operation officially came to a close. The entire process went without a single hitch. Everything was executed exactly according to plan. Beautiful. Chen Meng sat on the train, looking at the flames ahead, and spoke softly. Like a silent film with no sound, yet breathtakingly shocking. This world was far more cruel than his previous one. In the apocalypse, there were only 2 types of people, train captains and slaves. Entering the era of cosmic civilizations, there were still only 2 types, hunters and prey. You either hunt others, or you get hunted. There is no option for peace. The prerequisite for any peace is that both sides find the other 2 tough to swallow. That kind of peace is as fragile as the moon's reflection in water. Just toss a stone, and it shatters. And he didn't want to be the one getting bullied. Master Meng. Lao Zhu looked at the report on his tablet. The mission was completed perfectly. No casualties. The cargo is 100% intact. I had Chikashio inspect it. This batch of high-precision equipment is quite basic, but it's complete. It can absolutely be used to research and develop some higher-level accessory blueprints. As for the more advanced blueprints, they are strictly controlled by the Casa civilization. Extremely hard to get. Very good. Chen Meng nodded, looking satisfied. We also acquired a haul of resources. Nearly 1.7 billion community units, almost 3 billion units of iron ore, along with some other resources. It's not a massive amount, but it makes sense. After all, it's a merchant guild train. They only need enough resources for travel and defense. No information was transmitted out. No one knows what happened here. Everything was done without anyone being the wiser. As long as they didn't speak a word, the Jiang family would never know whose hands this cargo fell into for the rest of their lives. But right at that moment, beep, beep, the enemy detection radar blared continuously. A massive cluster of glaring red dots suddenly appeared on the screen. Chen Meng frowned slightly. Over 900 trains, arranged in formation, were charging toward him from the direction of the Chioha civilization. At this speed, if we stay put, we're expected to make contact in 21 hours. Fast response. He narrowed his eyes at the red dots. Unlike other trains, all of them bore the insignia of the Chioha civilization. In other words, these were official military trains. They were all high-level trains, basically around level 30. Their main cannons ranged from level 50 to level 70. As for defense, they were uniformly level 30. To him, this was just a bunch of small fry, completely unqualified to even fight him. But placed in this region, a force like this was already incredibly strong. A standard combat-ready formation. Bring Zhou Shen here. Let him take a look. Very quickly, Zhou Shen walked over. Looking at the hundreds of red dots on the screen, he froze slightly. Then, a flash of terror appeared in his eyes, and he instinctively blurted out, we're done for. Not quite done for. Chen Meng curled his lip. If they want to stop me, they couldn't do it in a lifetime. I don't mean we're done for. I mean the Chioa civilization is done for. Zhou Shen's voice was soft. Everyone underestimated the newly appointed leader. Recently, after a violent upheaval in the leadership of the Chioa civilization, a young man who had never stood out before took that position. Frankly speaking, most people have no idea how he got up there. But the Chioa civilization only has 1,600 active mechanical trains. Among them, 1,086 were built through cooperation between the civilization and the major families. They are the private weapons of those families and normally don't follow orders at all. And now, he's mobilized over 900 of them, without a single leak of information. This proves that the new leader has secretly taken control of a massive number of trains. The target this time is the Jiang family's merchant guild train. I thought he just wanted to put the Jiang family in their place, like a new boss showing who's in charge. But now it seems he wants to completely destroy the Jiang family's merchant train. That way, during the inspection in a few days, the Jiang family won't be able to deliver the equipment, giving him an excuse to declare war directly. On the day of the inspection, the key figures of the Jiang family will also be there in person. In other words, he never intended to just put them in their place. He was aiming for war from the very beginning. Once it breaks out, the situation will spiral completely out of control. The entire Chioa civilization will enter a state of absolute total war, and a lot of people will die. Chen Meng thoughtfully looked at the hundreds of trains on the screen. If that's the case, then our goals actually align. Their radar clearly isn't high enough level. To ensure they intercept the Jiang family's merchant train, they chose to cast a wide net. This is definitely just the first line of defense. Even if this line fails, once they get close to planet Chioa, the planetary defense firepower will open fire directly. Very good. Then that guy should really be thanking me. I conveniently helped him solve a major problem. Chen Meng tilted his head to look at Qiu Yizhao and Zhou Shen. Do you two want to bring your families onto the train? If necessary, we'll make a trip back. Once wartime begins, coming and going won't be so convenient. Is that possible? Really? Of course. Meanwhile, in Sanshui City, on the top floor of an office building, 7 or 8 people sat around a long table, no one saying a word. After an unknown amount of time, an old man, supported by someone beside him, slowly sat in the head seat. He then pulled 2 shattered life tablets from his robes and placed them on the table. His eyes were cloudy, filled with an aura of death. A moment later, he spoke in a hoarse voice. The life tablets of Xiao Sheng and President Zhang shattered at the exact same time. Our goods didn't make it. This operation was kept strictly confidential. Besides me, no one knew President Zhang's route. Which means the ones who attacked weren't space pirates, nor were they any other faction. Only the military of the peace-seeking civilization, conducting a large-scale sweep, could have intercepted them near that route. In other words, that newly appointed leader has no intention of leaving us a way out. Xiao Xinzi. I'm here, father. A middle-aged man stood up and answered respectfully. Prepare some scrap parts, move them into the research facility, and set it on fire. Understood. The rest of you are dismissed. When you get back, mobilize all the available resources in your hands and prepare for the worst. I'm afraid this war is unavoidable. Every civilization faces similar conflicts. Only when resources are highly concentrated can they build powerful fleets and strong armies, thereby making the civilization powerful. Leaders all want to hold the resources in their own hands, but that goes against human nature. The people at the bottom also want to be fed, and they also want to have their own fleets. This conflict is irreconcilable. It only accumulates over time, eventually erupting in a final war to determine the winner. Although it happened quite suddenly, they didn't expect this young leader to be so ruthless, cutting off all their escape routes the moment he took power. But they didn't panic. Such things had happened in far too many civilizations. The next step was to rely on their existing foundation and find a reasonable excuse. Life tablets, a specialty product of the cultivation civilization, were extremely useful. In inter-civilization trade, the mainstream goods were the specialties of different civilizations. Just by changing locations, they could be sold at a high price. It's just that they had to pay all sorts of fees, like tariffs, wormhole usage fees, and navigation energy consumption. The war hasn't even started, but the money is already burning. One day later, Chen Meng sat in the control room of the Hongxing, holding a Sanshui City newspaper in his hand. Today's headline was about the research facility of Feiyang Technology Company in the suburbs of Sanshui City. It had burst into a raging fire early yesterday morning. By the time the fire department arrived, the factory had been reduced to ashes. It was estimated that equipment worth nearly 100 billion units of iron ore had been destroyed. The cause of the accident is currently under investigation. According to the company's person in charge, it was highly likely caused by a cigarette but carelessly thrown away by an employee. A friendly reminder to all citizens: don't drop your cigarette butts, keep your parents intact. Not bad. Chen Meng smiled, his eyes narrowing, and took a sip of his iced tea. This news gave him a familiar feeling. Even though the civilization was different, the way people cooked the books was still as classic as ever. Fire is indeed a good thing. In most cases, it can burn away all debts. In some more extreme cases, if the debt can't be burned, they just burn the auditors who come to check. A thorough solution, if a bit hot. Thinking of this, he felt a slight headache. Chikashio had told him that they were short on manpower, and the R&D team needed to be expanded to at least 100 people. He had asked if the people from Feiyang Technology Company in Sanshui City were of any use. If they were, he was ready to go rob them again. The answer he got was no. They were all low-quality goods. Finding a group of people like that was indeed a hassle. But whatever, he'd leave it for later. A research team couldn't be built in a day or two. Right now, he also wanted to see if the peace-seeking civilization was really going to fight. Both sides held a lot of resources. If a war broke out, who knows, he might be able to sell some military weapons. At this moment, the Hongxing was traveling through space, heading toward the Xuanwu planet of the cultivation civilization. These two planets orbited the same star in the sector. The distance was very close, so there was no need to go through a wormhole. The ship could fly straight there. At their current speed, they were expected to arrive in 7 hours. He wasn't flying too fast. This sector had heavy ship traffic, and flying too fast would be a bit conspicuous. Besides, he was in no rush. This star system was called Star System 27, an artificial star system built by the Kasa civilization, gathering the civilized planets in the vicinity together. If you wanted to go to another star system, you had to go through a wormhole built by the Kasa civilization and pay a fee. In this world, everything has two sides. The Level 1 civilizations secretly complained that Kasa forcibly annexed them, forcing them to fight against the massive Zerg civilization army while restricting their development. But looking at it from another angle, opening up inter-civilization trade also made them develop much faster. Even if they couldn't break through their limits, their overall strength had increased significantly. This was exactly what the Kasa civilization wanted. Kasa had a small population but many high-end warships. They needed the lower-level civilizations to hold off the massive numbers of the Zerg, preventing the front lines from stretching so thin that they couldn't manage. Sure is lively. Chen Meng sat in the control room, looking out the window. Occasionally, fleets would speed past. Some ships had signs saying Passenger Ship of Civilization 20. Some had signs saying Sightseeing Ship of Tourism Company 20. Some were Merchant Guild ships, and there were also many private vessels. The Hongxing blended in perfectly, not standing out at all. There were even ships with more carriages, one of them having up to 108 carriages. Zhou Shun. Chen Meng curiously looked at the extremely long train bearing the sign, Luxury Sightseeing Ship of Jimei Travel Company. This company seems pretty capable. A ship with that many carriages must cost a fortune to build. It doesn't cost that much. Zhou Shun explained. As long as you don't upgrade the energy shields, building train carriages is very cheap. This train only runs between planets within the star system. It doesn't go far, just around the mother star area. It doesn't enter cold space without a mother star, doesn't enter asteroid belts, doesn't pass through cosmic dust, and has no need for combat. The manufacturing cost is low. Each carriage is a private suite without a spatial portal, so tourists can directly enjoy the view outside the window. This star system has a total of 67 habitable planets. The train selects 27 of those civilizations to form a long-term travel itinerary. The entire journey takes 90 days. Each tourist stays in a luxury suite, with each suite charging 30 million units of iron ore. One carriage has 8 suites. Chen Mang narrowed his eyes, doing the math in his head. Excluding the locomotive, there were 108 carriages in total. Assuming 8 carriages held supplies and 100 carriages carried passengers, that meant 800 suites, each at 30 million. In other words, one trip brought in 24 billion. Besides the manufacturing cost, are there any other expenses? What about the cost of finding customers? Zhou nodded. There are. Those armed escort ships accompanying it are for protection. Also, the cost of acquiring customers is very high. In any industry, this cost is always the highest, especially for high-net-worth clients. Most of it relies on long-term accumulation, maintaining relationships, and mutual referrals. Selling tickets is secondary. Selling connections is the main point. The higher a client's net worth, the easier it is for them to accept recommendations from friends. First, because they trust their friends. Second, because they have common topics to discuss within their circle. The exact external costs are unclear, but the profit definitely isn't low. Each trip probably makes around 10 billion. Many suites are given away for free to certain people, like connections the corporation needs to maintain. Chen Meng silently watched the train gradually fall behind outside the window, saying nothing. He realized that back on the aqua blue planet, mining was almost the only way to earn iron ore. After leaving the aqua blue planet, he relied on mining planets. It was still mining, but upon arriving at the Casa Civilization Federation, digging for ore became extremely difficult. Because the ores on the planets all belonged to the government, private mining was prohibited. Moreover, there were no mining planets around this star system. But in exchange, there were far more ways to earn ore. Every industry could make you rich. These people, without the threat of an apocalypse, really dared to spend money, taking 30 million units of iron ore not to upgrade their ships, but just to go on a sightseeing trip. He used to think the princess of the mechanical civilization was a reprehensible waster of resources, not going to the front lines and consuming so much iron ore. But compared to the people in front of him, he finally understood what true waste was. If he could get his hands on all these money-making industries, his speed of getting rich would be much faster than before. In a context where the wealth gap was extremely obvious, the money of the rich was always the easiest to earn. He had unique products, decent strength, and could hide behind the scenes like this. Without drawing the attention of the Casa civilization, he would secretly accumulate resources and upgrade his ship until the day the curtain was torn down. Jime Travel Company. Chen Meng softly repeated the name a few times, committing it to memory. He didn't plan to personally enter a new industry and start from scratch. That would take too much time and effort. He wanted a simpler and more brutal approach. Build a massive interest group centered around the Hongxing, letting everyone earn resources for him. His future plans gradually became clear. The first stop was the Xuanwu planet of the cultivation civilization. He would survey the area, expand his market, and conveniently build his reputation. He wasn't sure what level the strongest ships of the Casa civilization or the Zerg civilization had reached, but he figured that as long as his armor reached level 500, he would be as steady as a mountain. Until his armor and all accessories were upgraded to level 500, he wouldn't show his face. Hiding wasn't cowardice, it was accumulating strength. A few hours later, the Hongxing entered the atmosphere of the Xuanwu planet and landed at a spaceport. While waiting in line to enter the port, Chen Meng looked out the window at the towering skyscrapers and dense neon lights, unable to help his surprise. Isn't this a cultivation civilization? Why does it look like a cyberpunk city? Zhou Shen explained in a low voice. It wasn't like this before, but after inter-civilization trade became so close, many things quietly changed. The cultivation civilization now might not be like what Boss Mang usually sees in wuxia novels. Just then, he noticed an extremely long train also slowly landing at the spaceport, lining up to leave. It was the luxury ship of Jime Travel Company. Excellent. Tens of minutes later, the Hongxing left the spaceport and flew toward the nearest city. Along the way, they occasionally saw cultivators flying on swords, looking incredibly dashing. Zhou Shun continued his introduction. Boss Mang, the Xuanwu planet doesn't have absolute unification. The strongest factions are the 5 great sects and the 3 great families. This city was jointly built and strictly managed by those 8 factions. All cultivators who enter the city have their cultivation bases locked to ensure absolute safety for the tourists. But after leaving the city, it's best to stay on the ship and not show your face carelessly. Although malicious incidents aren't common, they still happen. Most tourists will stay in this city, then take sightseeing vehicles to other areas on the Xuanwu planet to observe the internal affairs of the cultivation sects. Very good. Chen Mang sat in his chair, looking at the scene before him with interest. He liked the feeling of different civilizations colliding and mixing like this. It always birthed some very bizarre things. He wasn't worried about his own safety. He just didn't want to expose his strength, preferring to develop quietly and humbly. If it really came down to a test of strength, these nearly 10,000 level 1 civilizations weren't qualified to threaten him. However, he pointed at a female cultivator in a red dress flying back and forth on a sword above them. Why does she keep flying back and forth? Oh, Zhou Shun hesitated, not knowing how to explain. Let me explain. Zhang Qiudao, standing nearby, stepped forward. The 8 major factions on the Xuanwu planet jointly established a tourism and culture bureau. In this city, they try their best to display cultivation elements for the tourists to see. The cultivators flying back and forth are putting on a performance. This gives tourists a more immersive feeling when they enter the city. Cultivation also requires acting. Tourism and Culture Bureau? Yes. After all, the people willing to spend money on this long-distance trip are very generous. In recent years, this has also become one of the main sources of income for the 8 major factions. Inside the Hongxing, Chen Mang sat at the control console, quietly observing his surroundings. Everything happening was incredibly foreign to him, scenes he had never seen before. In the past, these things only existed as fragments in dreams. It was crowded. On the highway, trains and all sorts of vehicles occasionally passed by. This scene looked exactly like cyberpunk cultivation. Foundation establishment cultivators flying on swords blended into the city of bright neon lights and skyscrapers without feeling out of place at all. The train stopped in the suburbs. Many captains and their entourages stepped off one after another, lining up to enter the city. Although the cultivation world was a completely new experience, everyone understood that this place still harbored hidden dangers. Many captains were well prepared. Some brought armed robots. Some led entourages carrying heavy weapons with cold expressions, and some were even accompanied by 2 mechas. Chen Mang, on the other hand, was different. At this moment, he was also standing in line, wearing only a hat, holding little green in his arms, with Zhang 1, Zhang 2, and Old Zhu behind him. They looked harmless at first glance, but their safety level was absolute. Soon, the group entered the city. The 3rd elder of the poisonous snake sect, Zhang Qiudao, who had been appointed as the commercial market manager of the cultivation civilization, was now doubling as a tour guide, beginning his introductions. The scenery inside the city was extremely bizarre. The nearest shop was a mechanical magical treasure store, filled with dazzling flying swords hanging inside. But the style leaned toward sci-fi. Many of the swords continuously emitted light, looking incredibly gorgeous. That's a shop opened by another civilization, Zhang Qiudao explained. The flying swords are made with technology. When they fly, they have a lot of visual effects and look beautiful, but they can't be taken into the Dantian to be refined. Their power is inferior to the flying swords made by artifact refiners in the cultivation world. They're usually just bought by rich young masters as toys. All around were countless shops selling bizarre items, and the streets were packed with people. Walking down the street, Chen Mang's eyes were a bit dazzled. He casually spent a few million units of iron or to buy some interesting toys, planning to bring them back to the Hongxing to study later. At the same time, he wanted to use them to stimulate Qi Kushio's inspiration. If these toys could be modified into components, the effects after upgrading would definitely be worth looking forward to. Just then, a panicked cry rang out beside his ear. "Let me go?" Chen Mang turned his head, only to see a girl in a long dress being held midair by Zhang 1 and Zhang 2, her legs kicking weakly. "Boss Mang," Zhang 1 said in a deep voice. This woman just rushed out from the side. Before Chen Mang could speak, a group of middle-aged men in black clothes chased after her from behind. Each of them wore a bizarre mask. The leader carried a long sword, staring gloomily at Chen Mang. "Kid, I advise you not to meddle in other people's business. Hand her over. Otherwise, you'll die a very ugly death." The woman suspended in midair now struggled to raise her hand and point at Chen Mang. Turning to look at the pursuers behind her, she said loudly, "He is the lover I mentioned. This young master and I have been bound by fate for a long time. Please go back and tell your young master that I cannot be with him." After saying that, she turned back to Chen Mang, her face pitiful and aggrieved, sobbing, "Help me, please." Chen Mang looked at the girl held in midair, then glanced at the black-clad pursuers. He sighed softly, turned his back, and continued walking forward. "Throw her out. Where did this tigress come from?" "Zhou Shun. This city doesn't seem very safe, does it?" Blocking the street in broad daylight. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang 1 and Zhang 2 immediately let go, dropping the woman to the ground, and quickly caught up with Boss Mang. The group didn't look back, quickly disappearing into the crowd. The woman sat slumped on the ground, watching their retreating backs, her eyes full of bewilderment. She took a bronze mirror from her robes, looked at her face, and muttered, "Could it be that I've gotten old? Am I no longer attractive?" The black-clad pursuers behind her also looked at each other, standing there dumbfounded. The middle-aged leader walked up to the woman, scratching his head and asking, "Should we go find the next target?" "Let's go." Beside Chen Mang, Zhou Shin hesitated for a moment before explaining, "That was probably a situational play just now. I don't come to Zhongzhou City often, but I know the Tourism and Culture Bureau has arranged quite a few scripts like this. The purpose is to let tourists personally experience the complex disputes of the cultivation world. That scene just now was likely a hero saving the beauty script. If Boss Mang had stepped in to help, it probably would have triggered the next part of the storyline. That's not called a hero saving the beauty." Chen Mang walked ahead, leaning on his cane, his voice calm. "It's only a hero saving the beauty when I take the initiative to save someone. When someone actively seeks me out, that's called dragging trouble to my doorstep. They're up to no good. Avoiding trouble is better than adding to it. For example, now is the time for me to be a hero saving the beauty." He stopped and turned to look toward the noise echoing from a nearby alley. In the alley, several middle-aged men were cornering a young girl. The old man leading them sounded amiable, but every word was bone-chillingly sharp. "Just hand over the authority. Your father is dead. A massive company like Jime Travel isn't something you can control. When your father was alive, I served as the vice captain for 78 years. I was his most valued confidant. Before he died, he also told me to take good care of you. But you're too young, and you lack ruthless methods. Many people are eyeing the massive wealth in your hands. If you hand the authority over to me, I can guarantee you a lifetime of wealth and glory. You'll still be the eldest miss, never having to worry about food or clothing. But if you hesitate, the others won't be as gentle as I am when they make their move. When that time comes, I can't guarantee what they might do." The girl, forced into the corner of the alley by the burly men, had a petite figure, not even 1.5 meters tall. Leaning against the wall, she hugged a plush doll in her arms, looking up at the old man who was both familiar and strange to her. Her voice trembled, carrying a hint of a sob. "Uncle Wang, you used to treat me so well. Why? This is what my father left for me. Didn't you say before that you only wanted to be the vice captain your whole life? Absolutely never the captain, because you knew you didn't have the ability?" Those words made the old man waver slightly. He sighed softly. "The past is the past, and now is now. It's precisely because the company was left by your father that I've poured my heart and soul into it. I don't want to see it decline in your hands. Besides, with so many brothers following me, even if I don't want to fight for it, they won't agree. Let's be honest. In this universe, is there any vice captain who dares to say they never want to take power in their entire life?" As soon as he finished speaking, "There is." Old Zhu stood at the entrance of the alley, his face dark. Without waiting for Boss Mang to speak, he gritted out every word. "Old dog, if you can't do it yourself, don't say others can't either. I, Old Zhu, have never had the intention of being the captain in my entire life. A disloyal traitor deserves to die 100 times over. Logically speaking, It wasn't his turn to speak before Boss Mang opened his mouth, but that old man's words were practically digging a hole for someone. He clearly felt Biaozi's gaze on him become very indescribable. He had no choice but to speak up. This was practically putting a knife right into Boss Mang's hand. Boss Mang didn't have kids right now, but who knew about the future? If one day he remembered this sentence and decided to butcher him so his kid could inherit smoothly, he wouldn't even be wronged. Who are you people? The old man turned to look at the group standing at the alley entrance, frowning. We're having a private conversation. Please leave. Interesting. Chen Mang stood at the alley entrance, looking down to light a cigarette. Then he looked up at the gloomy alley in front of him and sighed. If a city didn't have dirty alleys like this, you guys probably wouldn't even have a place to negotiate, huh? If you want to bully someone, couldn't you find a private room or a more secluded place? You just had to do it in a dark alley. Afraid people wouldn't notice? I was born kind-hearted. I can't stand seeing people bully each other. This girl, I'm saving her. He looked at the girl cowering in the corner, smiled, and waved. Come here. The girl gritted her teeth, hesitated for a moment, then bypassed the old man and ran quickly toward Chen Mang, standing obediently behind him, her eyes full of panic and unease. In this world, an unarmed woman holding a massive fortune was practically synonymous with the word misfortune. Sooner or later, she would be swallowed whole. It was just a matter of how. The old man raised his hand to stop his subordinate who was about to curse, observing Chen Mang and his group. Then he chuckled. It's rare to see someone playing the hero saving the beauty in this day and age. But you might have misunderstood. We're not bad people. I watched her grow up. How could I harm her? As for you all, you have quite the aura. What line of work are you in? State your names. Chen Mang revealed his even white teeth, smiling very gently. Space pirates, second class. Have you heard of us? I have. Chen Mang didn't expose the old man. After all, he had just made that name up. It would be a miracle if the other party had actually heard of it. Then he turned to the girl behind him, smiling. Let's go. I'll take you to get something to eat. This world probably isn't suited for you. The old man watched Chen Mang and his group leave, his expression gloomy and unreadable. Unsure of their background, he didn't dare act rashly for the moment. He only whispered, Ameo, follow them and see where they go. I'll go find young Master Li to report. Cultivation Civilization, Zhongzhou City. In a 108-story commercial complex, Chen Mang and the others were sitting by the window of a restaurant on the 98th floor, looking at the dishes laid out on the table. A waiter stood to the side, introducing each dish. This was a quite famous restaurant in the city, opened by the Sword Sect, one of the 5 great sects. The food was all spirit beast meat with unique flavors, an experience very hard to come by on other planets. Quite interesting. Chen Mang picked up a piece of meat covered in sauce and put it in his mouth, raising an eyebrow slightly. The texture was very unique. It melted in the mouth without needing to be chewed, with a rich, sweet flavor. After swallowing, a warm sensation spread to his stomach, quite comfortable. But the flaws were also obvious. There was no chewiness to the meat, and it was too sweet. It was fine for an occasional treat, but not suitable for long-term consumption. Compared to this, he still preferred the scallion oil noodles made by Xiaofeng. Remind me to catch a few spirit beasts when we head back. We'll raise them on the ship. Chen Mang looked at the city scenery outside the window, casually giving the order. Right then, the girl sitting across from him, who hadn't touched her chopsticks the entire time and looked anxious and uneasy, finally looked up at him and asked, They all call you Boss Mang, so I'll call you that too, okay? Thank you for stepping in to help. Can I leave now? If I have the chance, I will repay you. Of course not. Chen Mang continued looking down at the city, his tone indifferent. I almost forgot to tell you. I'm no hero. I'm just a mortal. Saving someone comes with conditions. I need you to do me a favor. I already have a lover, the girl hurriedly added. Chen Mang tilted his head slightly, looking at the girl across from him with a somewhat strange expression. In your eyes, is your body worth more than Jime travel? Tell me, how much profit does the company your father left behind make every year? I'm quite curious. As soon as he finished speaking, the girl's expression instantly changed. She leaned back in her chair, looking straight at Chen Mang, enunciating every word clearly. You came for the company too. Nonsense. Chen Mang sighed. his tone a bit impatient. Everyone in this society has their own value to others. And the value you can provide, aside from the company your father left behind, is absolutely nothing. Approaching you for the company, is that so strange? Let's be blunt. We haven't interacted for long, but it's obvious you have no trusted aides of your own, nor do you have any schemes. You're completely a naive girl. You definitely can't hold on to this company. You might as well sell it for a good price. At least, if you sell it to me, you'll still sit in the CEO's chair. The company will still nominally be yours, and I'll help you expand its scale and make it grow stronger. I just want the majority of the profits. Very fair. But what is this authority that guy mentioned earlier? The captain's authority? Does your Jime travel only have exactly one ship? The girl sitting across from him looked at the man who spoke with such brutal honesty, her eyes gradually turning red as tears silently streamed down her face. When her father was alive, no one had ever spoken to her like this. Everyone was gentle. Everyone gave way to her. Why? Why did everything change the moment her father died? Everyone was pressuring her. She just wanted to peacefully manage the company her father left behind. Was that a crime? She raised her hand to wipe her tears, trying to keep her voice from trembling. It's the authority of that ship. Jime Travel Company only built one single luxury ship. The other escort ships are all rented. The AI database of that ship contains the entire legacy my father left behind, including the ledgers, partnership networks, operational data, and so on. Without these things, the company simply cannot operate. As long as I don't hand over the captain's authority, no one can take it away. Even if I'm tortured, I won't. I will absolutely not give in. Really? Chen Meng looked at her with a slightly strange gaze. Are you underestimating torture or overestimating your own willpower? Things that even I'm not sure I could endure, you're confident you can? Locking you in a medical pod for 49 days. Could you handle that? Needles shoved under your fingernails. Could you handle that? Inserting a catheter and pumping in mustard water. Could you handle that? Cracking your skull open and forcing you to eat your own brain. Could you handle that? With every sentence he spoke, the girl's face grew a shade paler. She thought she had met a hero saving the beauty straight out of a story, but who knew she had just escaped the wolf's den only to fall into the tiger's mouth. Finally, she completely broke down, burying her face in her hands and sobbing uncontrollably. You're all bad people. You and Uncle Wong are both bad people. Why are there people like you in the world? Bad people? Chen Meng lifted his teacup, a hint of a smile in his eyes as he looked out the window. It's been a long time since I met someone this pure. I might not be a good person, but your Uncle Wong is actually a good person. He served as your father's vice captain for 78 years. Heaven and earth have witnessed his competence and loyalty. After your father died, he only fought you for power through negotiation. He never used dirty tricks to snatch it. From beginning to end, he never hurt you, right? If that doesn't make him a good person, then there aren't many good people left in this world. The reason he's seizing power is simply because you're incompetent. If you were strong enough, decisive enough, ruthless enough, if you had intimidated those who needed intimidating the moment you took over, won over those who needed winning over, and cultivated your own trusted aides, would he still dare to fight for power? No. It's just because you can't suppress him. Failing to suppress others while expecting absolute loyalty is a pipe dream to begin with. If you had just shown a little bit of cunning, your Uncle Wong would definitely have supported you. Just like how he supported your father. It's a pity you don't have any. When you run into trouble, you don't think. You just fixate on one solution. And that's crying. As if just by crying, all your problems will naturally be solved. Yeah, crying is a survival skill, but using it as a management strategy is a bit delusional. Right at that moment, the old man, who had brought a group of subordinates and young masterly to find an excuse to cause trouble, arrived. Just as he walked up behind Chun Mang and the others, before he could even open his mouth, he heard every single word clearly. He instantly froze in place, his eyes turning red, tears glistening in the corners of his eyes, as if someone finally understood him. He didn't want to seize power. He just knew that with the young Mrs. Temperament, the company would definitely go bankrupt. He didn't want to see the master's life's work destroyed like that. He had tried his best to support the young miss, but she didn't care at all. She only wanted to use all the company's funds to put a bounty on the space pirate who killed the master. That was completely unrealistic to begin with. The brothers below were also disappointed, so he had no choice but to seize power. It was just that he never expected the person who understood him best would be a man he had only met once. The other party didn't even know his story, yet had guessed 70 to 80% of it right. How was he supposed to find an excuse to cause trouble now? This guy was practically his soulmate. At that very moment, a cold sneer rang out from behind them. At first, I thought there really was a hero saving the beauty. Who knew you just had your eyes on the same piece of fat meat as I do? The person who spoke stepped forward, his tone icy. Let me introduce myself. I am Li Taiping, the eldest son of the current leader of the Datong civilization. In case you don't know the strength of the Datong civilization, I'll make it clear. We have thousands of high-end mechanical ships. Our strength ranks at the top among all the civilizations in Star System 27. Hearing this, Chen Meng turned his head. The group from earlier was standing behind a young man who had a giant green onion on his head, making him instantly recognizable at a glance. Datong civilization, huh? I've heard of it. Very recognizable. He looked straight at Li Taiping. How do you want to settle this? Lay out the rules. Li Taiping replied coldly. A duel. Then he enunciated every word. I'll be blunt. Jime travel is a crucial piece of the puzzle in my plans. I want to use it as a stepping stone to build a large-scale tourism company and turn the Datong civilization into a tourist mecca. This is the achievement I need. Therefore, I must have this company at all costs. Chen Meng asked, how are we dueling? Li Taiping replied, a life-and-death duel. Li Taiping's gaze landed on Little Green in Chen Meng's arms. If I'm not mistaken, this is a void behemoth you're raising, right? If you can afford to raise a void behemoth, your identity definitely isn't as simple as a space pirate. Coincidentally, I'm also raising a void behemoth. Let the two beasts fight to the death. Whoever wins gets to eat this piece of meat. How about it? Chen Meng looked down at Little Green, his tone a bit helpless. That's not a great idea. It's not fully grown yet, hasn't even been weaned. It's not suited for fighting. Li Taiping smirked. If you're scared, then admit defeat. Chen Meng chuckled. Then let's give it a try. Li Taiping immediately stood up. I'll go find a venue. Cultivation Civilization, Zhongzhou City, a stadium that had been entirely booked out. On the soccer field, two void behemoths lay on the east and west sides. On the left was a massive star-treading sword tiger, over 10 meters tall and dozens of meters long. Its eyes looked disdainfully at the tiny green fur ball on the opposite side, its tail whipping the air with ear-piercing cracks. On the right was a tiny, furry thing, looking adorable and harmless, entirely light green, like a plush toy. Li Taiping sat in the stands, smiling smugly. There was no suspense in this match from the very beginning. Forgot to tell you, my void behemoth has already passed its infancy and officially reached adulthood. Once it goes out into space, it can slaughter everything in its path. A D-rank potential void behemoth, the star-treading sword tiger. Haha, it's not too late for you to regret it. Just admit defeat. Raising a void behemoth takes so much effort. Don't let it die for nothing and then get upset over it. Chen Meng sighed as if he really meant it. It's fine. There really is no suspense. He looked up at Li Taiping, speaking slowly. If I remember correctly, a D-rank potential star-treading sword tiger reaches level 30 in adulthood, possessing level 30 attack and defense intensity. Also, in the void behemoth function unlocked when a ship reaches level 18, this type of behemoth can be hatched. It's just that the success rate is 0.007%. It seems your luck is indeed quite good. Li Taiping laughed loudly. My luck has always been good. Let me see where your confidence comes from. Meanwhile, the old man sitting behind him had a complex expression. Previously, he had hoped Li Taiping would win, because Li Taiping had promised to help him seize power and develop the company, and he truly had the ability and kept his word. But now, he kind of hoped Chen Meng would win, because Chen Meng truly understood him. At first, he had felt guilty, but Chen Meng's words had shattered his psychological defenses, even making him want to kneel down and bow in respect. His stance was beginning to blur. Similarly, the girl sitting next to him also had a blurry stance. Right now, her eyes were red, and she kept sobbing softly, feeling like she was surrounded by bad people and there wasn't a single good person around. On the other side, Young Master Li's entourage was so excited they were waving their arms and shouting, "Come on, come on, bite that little booger to death." Little booger was quite fitting, an insult that hit right where it hurt. As for old Zhu and the others, they just exchanged glances, no one cheering. It was really because they knew too much. Little Green didn't look like much, but it was actually level 100. A level 100 fighting a level 30. What suspense was there? Boss Mang was bullying people again, and they loved it. Only the four newcomers, Zhou Shun, Qiu Yizhao, Zhang Qiudao, and Qi Kexiu, who had recently joined the Hongxing, didn't know Little Green's situation and were a bit worried. Sitting in the stands, they secretly clenched their fists, cheering for Little Green. The next moment, the starting gun fired, and the life-and-death duel officially began. Go! The star-treading sword tiger roared furiously, the sound so loud that the people in the stands felt a sharp wind slap their faces like a knife. Immediately after, it didn't hold back at all, lowering its body and turning into a shooting star, charging straight at Little Green. Its tiger eyes were filled with bloodlust and excitement. The distance of dozens of meters was closed in the blink of an eye. It raised its tiger paw and viciously slammed it down on Little Green. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening explosion, the ground shook violently. A massive, deep crater instantly appeared in the middle of the stadium. The star-treading sword tiger held its head high, sitting proudly in place. As for Little Green's figure, it had vanished without a trace. The battle is over. The winner is decided. Young Master Li sighed softly. Since that's the case, according to the rules, I get to eat this piece of meat. From now on, please don't interfere anymore. Otherwise, I am the son of the current leader of the Datong civilization, and I hold some military command authority in my hands. Zhou Shun and the others sitting nearby were all silent, their expressions complex. They felt this matter was definitely not over. Although they hadn't known Boss Mang for long, they knew he wasn't the type to do pointless things. If he had judged from the start that he couldn't win, he probably wouldn't have agreed to the duel and would have just driven the ship over directly. Boss Mang didn't easily sit at the gambling table unless he was absolutely sure he would win. Right at that moment, the star-treading sword tiger in the deep crater suddenly looked down at its claws in confusion. The next instant, the ground suddenly shook violently. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Then, the stadium floor rapidly collapsed. A massive, blood-red maw opened up from below, swallowing the dirt along with the star-treading sword tiger lying on the field. In the blink of an eye, the soccer field in the stadium completely vanished, replaced by a gigantic green furry monster hovering in midair, almost filling the entire stadium space. It was so huge that the people in the stands felt like they could touch it just by reaching out. What is this? Young Master Li jumped up and roared, his eyes bloodshot. Ahu! Ahu! Break out! Tear open its stomach and break out. No. He snapped back to reality, then fell to his knees in agony, burying his face in his hands and sobbing bitterly. No. Sigh. Chen Meng looked down with a headache and sighed, lighting a cigarette and bringing it to his lips while gently rubbing his temples. What kind of custom was this? Why was even a grown man like him crying at the drop of a hat? He was so aggressive about a life-and-death duel just a moment ago, but the moment he realized life was gone and death came too fast, he broke down. Didn't you say you wanted a life-and-death duel? Did you only think about the life part and not the death part? After a while, young Master Li finally stood up, stopping his furious subordinates who were about to attack. His eyes were red as he looked at Chen Meng, his voice hoarse as he enunciated every word. According to our agreement, you get to eat this piece of meat. From now on, I won't show up again. From this day forward, we'll mind our own business. Farewell. Saying that, overwhelmed with grief, he staggered, supported by his entourage, preparing to leave. Hold on. Chen Meng snapped his fingers lightly. Little Green, who had taken up the entire stadium space, gradually shrank, then opened its massive blood-red maw and spat out a normal-sized star-treading sword tiger. It was covered in wounds, but still breathing. It wasn't dead. It's not dead. I spared its life for you, Chen Meng continued. Raising a void behemoth isn't easy. It's just a minor conflict. There's no need for anyone to lose their life over it. But its strength is too weak, and it's heavily injured. If you trust me, I'll have someone take it to get treated. Young Master Li, who had been about to leave, looked at the star-treading sword tiger suddenly spat out by Little Green. A glimmer of hope instantly flashed across his agonized face. He hurriedly asked in a hoarse voice, "Are you faster than me? It'll take my people at most 13 minutes to get from here back to the ship." "Then I'm much faster than you." Chen Meng waved his hand. Zhang Wan immediately jumped down from the stands carrying a refrigerator, quickly hoisted the discarded star-treading sword tiger onto his shoulder, and strode briskly into the fridge. By this time, the star-treading sword tiger had returned to its normal state. Young Masterly didn't stop them, only watching anxiously. He hadn't expected Chen Meng to spare his void behemoth's life, even though they had agreed it was a life-and-death duel from the start. Having lost it and then regained it, he naturally had no reason not to trust him. He took a deep breath, then looked at Chen Meng with red eyes, enunciating every word. "I heard your people all call you Boss Meng. Boss Meng, I'll call you that too. Thank you for this time. I didn't expect you to spare Ahu's life. I'm completely withdrawing from this competition. Furthermore, I think we can become friends. If you have any requests in the future, just tell me anytime. If you ever have the chance to visit the Datong civilization, I'll give you the green light all the way. As long as you're not staging a rebellion, you can do whatever you want. Don't be in such a rush." Chen Meng lit another cigarette and sighed softly. "You see, wouldn't it have been better if everyone just sat down calmly and talked from the very beginning? Why all the fighting and killing? I've always advocated for peace. The kind of peace where, after you finish talking, anyone who doesn't listen gets physically cleaned up, right?" Besides, Chen Meng looked up at them, his voice still steady. "There's no competition between us. Your goal is to develop the tourism industry of the Datong civilization planet. So you need to control a travel company, right?" "That's right." He then looked at the girl beside him. "And your goal is to continue being the CEO and inherit your father's business, right?" "There's more," the girl replied tremblingly. "There's also avenging my father at all costs." Chen Meng nodded, then looked at the old man beside her. "As for the goal of a second-in-command like you, it's probably to see Jime travel develop better and better, so that the old brothers who followed your former master all have food to eat and a future, right?" The old man nodded repeatedly like a chicken pecking at grain. "Well, there you go." Chen Meng continued slowly. "Everyone's goals don't conflict at all. My goal is to have another way to make money, and I want the majority of the profits. In that case, the four of us can totally cooperate and work together to grow this company. The one who needs to build momentum for the Datong civilization's tourism industry can build momentum. The one who needs to make money can make money. The one who needs revenge can get revenge, and the one who needs to expand can expand. As long as everyone's goals remain the same and no one covets anyone else's profits. Isn't this a powerful alliance? A perfect match?" Young Master Li and the others looked at each other, all seeing the bewilderment in each other's eyes. After a long time, young Master Li frowned slightly. "Boss Meng, what you're saying makes sense, but logically speaking, if I steal her company, shouldn't I be her enemy? Your goals don't conflict, so why be enemies?" "But I'm stealing from her. If I don't steal it, won't others steal it?" "They'll steal it too," Chen Meng calmly concluded. "Then wouldn't she become the enemy of the whole world?" To be able to convince people with this kind of logic is quite a skill. Chen Meng continued patiently. "In this world." 10 minutes later, young Master Li stood there, his face flushed with excitement, crying and laughing at the same time. "Boss Meng, I've learned so much from you today. My father has always thought my younger brother was more capable. As long as I can develop the Datong civilization's tourism industry this time, my father will definitely have to look at me in a new light." The girl also clenched her fists, her eyes resolute. "As long as you can avenge my father, I'll hand over the authority to you immediately." The old man also stood up and bowed slightly. "I will continue to wholeheartedly assist the Jime travel group." "See." Chen Meng sat in the stands, smiling at them. "Isn't an ending like this very harmonious?" "Very well. Now, girl, tell me, how much profit does Jime Travel Group make a year now?" "Since my father passed away, it's been declining. Currently, it's about 10 billion units of iron ore a year." "That little?" Chen Meng frowned. "That's not even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. Doesn't your ship charge 24 billion per trip? We only run one trip a year. Customers aren't easy to find, and the competitive pressure in the industry is very high. It's fine. After a while, I'll help you clean up all those piers. Clean up how? Physical cleanup. That was indeed peace by Chun Mang's standards. After saying that, he turned to look at young Master Li. Such a small-scale travel company. Is it worth the eldest son of a civilization leader like you personally expending so much effort and still not managing to seize it after half a day? Young Master Li looked a bit embarrassed, his eyes darting away. The other companies all have backers behind them. I was afraid of blowing things out of proportion. This company was a bit easier to bully. It's fine. Leave it to me. Gather all the detailed information about your old man's murder. Let me see if you found out who did it. Do you have a name? Chun Mang muttered. Let me see. The Philia Pirate Group. Sounds a bit familiar. Zhou Shun whispered from the side. It's the Philia Pirate Group that's been gaining notoriety recently in Star System 27. They migrated here from another star system and ranked 23rd on the Casa Civilization Federation's bounty board. They're very strong. It's fine. Chun Mang smiled gently at them. I'll just go take care of it. Then I'll see you next time. I still have some matters to attend to. Once I've dealt with the Philia Pirate Group, we'll meet again to discuss how to expand to the maximum. Right at that moment, the refrigerator door below opened, and Zhang Wen stepped out carrying the star-treading sword tiger. By now, the star-treading sword tiger had lost all its former majesty. It tucked its tail between its legs and trotted over to young Master Li, biting the hem of his clothes and tugging backward. It glanced at Little Green standing nearby, its eyes filled with absolute terror, as if it just wanted its master to quickly leave this dangerous place. I've made a fool of myself. Young Master Li happily rubbed Ahu's head, then looked at its cowering posture and said sheepishly, This is the first time it's been scared to this extent. It's fine. Chun Mang laughed and waved his hand. I'll be going now. I'm sure you still have a few things to take care of here. Next time, raise a void behemoth with higher potential. The low-potential ones might have a short infancy, but even when they reach adulthood, they don't have much strength. If it's called a void behemoth, it should live up to its name and fight in the vast universe. A single slap only creating a crater? That power is too weak. Look at mine. See how strong it is? Find a better one next time. Let's go. After saying that, Chun Mang didn't linger, leading old Zhu and the others out of the stadium. What a miraculous figure. Young Master Li stood there, sighing as he watched Chun Mang's retreating back. He had interacted with quite a few people, but he had never met anyone like Chun Mang, who always left multiple ways out when doing things, never backing himself into a corner. He created countless options for himself, and on top of that, he was mysterious. The Philia Pirate Group was not weak at all, and their movements were unpredictable. They were extremely hard to find, yet Chun Mang spoke of it so lightly, as if it were just a matter of casually taking care of them. He truly was unfathomably deep. It was just that he didn't understand the parting words Chun Mang had dropped. I'm sure you still have a few things to take care of here. What did he need to take care of? Right at that moment, a staff member walked over with a gentle smile, handing him a bill. Thank you, young Master Li, for booking the venue and for your support. This is the repair bill for the stadium this time. Please take a look. Young Master Li froze, taking the bill. He looked at the long string of numbers, then down at the bottomless crater in the stadium. After a long silence, he finally asked in a hoarse voice, Is dirt that expensive? It is a bit expensive. We just finished the calculations. The crater is several hundred meters deep. Filling it with dirt and repairing the foundation will cost quite a bit. The staff member even offered very professional advice. For a match of this level, you could actually hold it outdoors next time, or promote it in advance to collect ticket fees and open a betting pool. In short, fight all you want, but remember to pay up first. Young Master Li looked down at the long string of numbers on the bill, stayed silent for another moment, then tilted his head to look at the staff member, asking listlessly, Can I get a discount? Of course. The staff member immediately pulled a pen from his pocket, crossed out a few lines on the paper, and rounded off the change. Young Master Li, you only need to pay 11 million units of iron ore. Young Master Li took a deep breath and waved his hand. The entourage behind him immediately stepped forward, taking out a spatial bag to prepare the payment. What needed to be compensated still had to be compensated. He hadn't expected that guy's void behemoth to be so terrifying. To have such terrifying power while still in its infancy, it had to be at least a C-rank potential void behemoth, maybe even B rank. Damn it. If the historical records weren't wrong, he clearly remembered that the void behemoth of the last leader of the mechanical civilization only had B rank potential. And that was already the highest potential one ever tamed in history. D rank potential void behemoths could be obtained through nurturing, but anything with higher potential had to be caught in the wild, not to mention the level of danger involved. The universe was so vast. Just finding a void behemoth wasn't easy, let alone catching one. If Chun Mang's void behemoth really had B-rank potential, where on earth did he get it? Could he have picked it up from the ruins of the mechanical civilization? Young Masterly walked with his head down, his thoughts racing. This guy was definitely not a space pirate, but he couldn't guess what higher identity he might have. After all, no matter how he looked at it, this person was much more profound than him, the son of a level 1 civilization leader. Could he be someone from a level 2 civilization? That didn't seem right either. He had interacted with people from level 2 civilizations before, and they all walked around with their noses in the air. They would absolutely never be this gentle with them. The girl and the old man walking behind him looked at each other, both feeling awkward. After a while, the old man was the first to break the silence. He sighed. "Miss, although in your eyes, it looks like I'm colluding with outsiders to swallow your father's assets. But actually, isn't that exactly what's happening?" The girl replied listlessly. "Now you know to call me miss? I haven't heard that in a long time. Where were you earlier? Where were you earlier?" Young Masterly, walking ahead, heard this and frowned slightly. He stopped, turned around, and looked at the girl, his expression calm but serious. "You still don't seem to understand the situation. In the four-way win-win plan Boss Mang mentioned, I have the resources of the Datong civilization to use. Boss Mang has integration capabilities and absolute strength. Uncle Wong, in your words, has rich execution experience. None of the three of us are dispensable. As for you, your only use is to hand over the ship's authority. Other than that, you have absolutely no use whatsoever." Being this blunt and still calling it gentle was quite. Boss Mang's conduct is already quite gentle, and I know what's good for me, which is why I've let you stand here in one piece until now. The only reason we brought you along is entirely because of Boss Mang's gentle heart. I hope that in the future, when you speak, you won't carry so much gunpowder. Be a bit gentler." After saying that, young Masterly patted Uncle Wong on the shoulder, said no more, and strode straight ahead. Now they just had to wait for Boss Mang to wipe out the Philia pirate group, and the plan could officially begin. He wasn't sure if Boss Mang could do it, but he believed in him. Through this interaction, he had been completely won over by Boss Mang. Unlike those second-generation rich kids who only knew how to fight and kill all day, and started mocking and picking fights the moment they opened their mouths. He vaguely felt that he had become the same kind of person as Boss Mang, and a sense of superiority sprouted in his state of mind. Every time he thought of his bad friends, he felt he was a cut above them. The most important thing was that he had also noticed an entourage member behind Boss Mang, wearing a full set of high-end Blazing Sun brand clothing from the mechanical civilization, worth nearly 1 billion units of iron ore. The peak of aura. Before even making a move, the wallet smacked people in the face first. Although it was a bit embarrassing, at the time, he had indeed pretended to casually observe it a few times. The style and logo all looked genuine, not like fakes. If Boss Mang had worn this outfit, he wouldn't have thought much of it. It would just be expensive, and it wasn't like he couldn't afford it. It was just a matter of whether he wanted to spend the money. But even a mere subordinate was wearing an outfit worth 1 billion. Then one could imagine how terrifying Boss Mang's family fortune was. Seeing a falling leaf and knowing autumn is coming. It was exactly like that. Furthermore, he had learned something else. Putting this kind of high-end brand clothing on a subordinate, compared to wearing it yourself, made people feel even more authoritative. Sigh. The old man sighed softly, tilted his head to look at the girl, and said gently, "You know too little about the universe. When you know more, you'll understand. You've never met a single bad person in your entire life. If you can't suppress me, I will definitely rebel. If I don't rebel against you, the people under me will rebel against me anyway. It sounds immoral, but that's an objective law. It doesn't depend on human will. Even if I firmly supported you, the people below would still rebel. If you want to be the boss, you have to show the aura of a boss first. If you were Boss Mang, I would absolutely never have second thoughts in this lifetime. Why? The girl looked at the old man, tears shimmering in the corners of her eyes, enunciating every word. You watched me grow up since I was little, and you still rebelled against me. Are you saying you wouldn't rebel against him? Of course. The old man sighed with emotion. If I rebel against him, I will definitely die. If I rebel against you, can you kill me? Do you have any means to kill me? Saying that is enough to understand why people say you don't understand the universe. If you're too soft, everyone will want to try and take a bite. Let's go, Mississippi. There won't be any more of these things in the future. The old man lowered his voice as if making a final conclusion. Boss Mang's strength and methods are both very powerful. If the master were still alive, he would also deeply admire him. With Boss Mang holding the fort, nothing will go wrong. Everything is developing in a good direction. Although the result isn't what I thought it would be, looking back, it seems even better. At this time, Chen Mang was leading his group as they continued walking through Zhengzhou City, feeling the combination of cultivation civilization and modern technology in this place. Everything was novel. As for what just happened, to him, it was just a minor prelude, like a dessert before the main course. It conveniently added another resource collection channel. This channel would definitely get better the more they worked on it, because the speed of mining or was too slow. His goal was to build a massive interest group, preferably covering all civilizations, so that people from all civilizations would be like miners working for him, with resources pouring into his account every day. And today's main course was Coca-Cola. That's right. It was the enhanced, top-tier version of the marrow cleansing pill from the Cultivation World. The Cultivation World Daily reported that the Triennial Alchemist Convention would open in Zhengzhou City in 3 days. It was expected that hundreds of sects would send their genius alchemists to participate and compete for the title of Rising Star Pill King. Participation was limited to alchemists under 25 years old. Very good, he smiled, stuffing the newspaper into old Zhu's arms beside him. He wouldn't stay in this cultivation world for too long. He didn't have the time to build a business slowly. He had to use the most explosive methods to gain the biggest reputation. He would gather a massive amount of orders in a short time, make a huge fortune first, and then figure out how to maintain it long-term. Advertisements for the competition could be seen in every corner of Zhengzhou City. Clearly, in the cultivation world, this was an extremely important festival. Making a name for himself here, combined with other methods, would be a surefire way to become world famous in one shot. This newspaper was published by the Heavenly Secret Pavilion, one of the 5 great sects of the cultivation world. Chen Mang was busy with all sorts of things. He still had to go to the Furong planet to sell off that batch of high-end Blazing Sun clothing. Leaving a jacket worth hundreds of millions on the Hongxing was truly a waste. Right at that moment, he saw Biaozi wearing the full Blazing Sun set from head to toe and couldn't help but be surprised. Why are you wearing that? Biaozi whispered sheepishly. This is expensive. I thought I'd try it on first, so I can brag about it when we sell it. Then where's the jacket Kishio gave you? I took it back and framed it. You guys are truly something else. Chen Mang sighed, then stood up and continued walking. Let's go. Out of the city. Zhang Qiudao, you lead the way. I'll help you sit in the sect master's seat. Among my people, you rookies still look the most normal. Soon after, the Hongxing sped through the sky of the Xuanwu planet, heading straight for the poisonous snake sect. Inside the ship, Chen Mang looked at the resource panel. 312.9 billion units of iron ore, 620 million units of wood, 3,531.9 billion units of copper ore, 19.4 billion units of red heart rock, 60.87 billion units of titanium crystal ore. The ship currently had too many ways to gather iron ore. For example, the cyber miners. As long as he didn't upgrade components, the amount of iron ore would steadily increase every day. The daily consumption had been completely offset. The only thing that made him a bit worried was that the harder they worked. He frowned slightly as he looked at the information Xiao AI reported. Yesterday, 7 cyber miners dug into a mine guarded by soldiers, were attacked, and had to be sent to the medical pod. Fortunately, they were treated in time and had fully recovered. It was just that, for some reason, he always had a feeling that if they kept digging like this for another few decades, there would definitely come a day when a massive fleet would cross millions of light years at any cost to find him and furiously launch an attack. Whatever, he'd worry about the future when it came. For now, just keep digging. A classic worry about it tomorrow attitude. But that tomorrow might just bring a whole fleet knocking on his door. He planned to manufacture a batch of level 40 armed combat robots and leave them in the cultivation world to make money for him. Level 30 attack intensity was equivalent to a full force strike from an early nascent soul cultivator, while level 40 attack intensity was equivalent to a full force strike from an early deity transformation cultivator. This cultivation world simply didn't have any deity transformation cultivators. The strongest was only at the 9th level of nascent soul, so this was more than enough. This cultivation world was truly very weak. If the Casa civilization hadn't kept this civilization around, once it was discovered by another civilization, it would basically be doomed to extinction. Perhaps this cultivation world was a downgraded version, or for some other reason. In short, there was no major threat. Before this, he needed to upgrade the red-grade armed combat robot production line component, so he could manufacture higher-grade robots. Although it was a red-grade component, the upgrade cost was much lower than other red components, because its main consumption didn't lie in upgrading, but in manufacturing the robots. After consuming 20 billion units of copper ore, he upgraded this component straight to level 200 in one go. Normally, the cost to upgrade a red-grade component from level 0 to level 200 would be around 45 billion. Yet this one was significantly cheaper. A classic case of good stuff that eats your money elsewhere. At the same time, it unlocked 4 brand new super effects. The level 5 effect allowed intact robots to be recycled at full price, and heavily damaged robots to be recycled based on the degree of damage. And from level 10, level 20, 50, and 100 all have the robot's ammunition consumption. The level 200 super effect not only halved ammunition consumption, but also allowed them to slowly absorb the core energy flowing in the air, forming corresponding copper ore in the magazine as a reserve ammunition resource. Auto-reloading just by breathing. Just hearing about it sounded amazing. Damn. Chen Meng looked at the series of super effects that reduced ammunition consumption and couldn't help but laugh, extremely satisfied. Now he could confirm that the Robot Research Center component drastically reduced the cost of manufacturing robots, and the armed combat robot production line drastically reduced ammunition consumption. In the past, the mechanical civilization must have thrown in a massive amount of resources to create these 2 component blueprints to achieve such super effects. They wanted to use them to fight against the Zerg civilization, but unfortunately, they still failed in the end. As for the specific reasons, he'd have to wait until he had the chance to go from the Furong planet to the ruins of the mechanical civilization. Maybe he could dig up some internal secrets. But for now, the effects were truly perfect. The manufacturing cost of a standard fully equipped armed robot with level 40 defense and level 40 attack intensity was 2 billion units of copper ore. But he only needed 1/64th of the price, which was 31.25 million units of copper ore. For Zhang Qiudao, assuming his talent was good enough and he had enough spirit stones. After several thousand years, if he was lucky, he might cultivate to the 9th level of nascent soul. If he was super lucky, he might even break through to the deity transformation stage. The 9th level of the nascent soul stage is equivalent to level 39. But to him, the next moment, 100 fully equipped level 40 armed combat robots were produced in the Mecha Research Center in car number 2. It only cost a total of 3 billion units of copper ore. That was only about 1% of the ship's copper ore reserves. And this batch of robots didn't just have level 40 attack power, they also had level 40 defense. Given enough time, this batch of robots could completely slaughter the entire cultivation civilization. Using them to escort his business was honestly overkill. Too domineering. He liked this kind of method. Relying on the mechanical ship's resources, no messing around, just straight-up brute force. As long as there were enough resources, he could power up instantly. The only downside was that the rise of this type of civilization led to endless wars among civilizations in the universe, because plundering was the fastest way to get resources. Once you chose this civilization model, you were forced to become a predatory civilization. Simply put, taking shortcuts is highly addictive. Normally, a level 40 robot like this, if maintaining level 40 attack intensity and loaded with 1 billion units of copper ore, could only attack for 1 minute. because the ship's attacks consumed an extreme amount of resources. This was common knowledge for all components. In this regard, the cultivation civilization had the upper hand. At least they wouldn't blow their entire fortune on a single battle. But he had 5 super effects that reduced robot ammo consumption, meaning they only consumed 1/32 of the usual amount. He only needed to load 100 million units of copper or to fire continuously for 3.2 minutes. If he loaded 1 billion, they could fire continuously for 32 minutes. Especially the level 200 super effect. In standby mode, they could slowly regenerate ammo. The more he used them, the more he profited. He then told Xiao AI to load 100 million units of copper ore into each robot's magazine, consuming another 10 billion units of copper ore. 100 million units of copper ore was just the total amount. It didn't mean stuffing 100 million pieces into each magazine. After converting it into high-grade copper or units, just inserting 1 level 9 copper ore was enough. In total, he only spent 33 billion units of copper ore. With that, the armed forces to be deployed on this planet were sorted out. It was literally a case of others cultivate their whole lives, while he just taps a few buttons and has a whole lineup of soul formation stage fellow Taoists. An hour later, the planetary ship slowly came to a halt on a mountain peak. This was already a non-core area of the cultivation world, a place tourists rarely visited. Chen Meng turned to look at Zhang Qiudao, standing in the control room, his voice light. A total of 100 level 40 armed combat robots. Each robot has strength equivalent to the early soul formation stage. Is that enough? It's enough, it's enough. Zhang Qiudao nodded repeatedly, his expression complicated. He knew before that the ship's captain was terrifying, but he had no real concept of just how terrifying. Now he did, and it had hit him right in the face. In the cultivation world, a soul formation stage expert was something rarely seen in 1,000 years. Yet Master Meng casually pulled out 100 of them. This wasn't just a gap in power anymore. It was a devastating, dimensional strike. Yeah, if anything comes up later, contact me through the iris chip. Chen Meng instructed further, after we leave, if there's a situation you need to report, contact me through that fridge. Take this fridge with you too. Zhang Qiudao and the others had all been implanted with iris chips, becoming official members of the planetary ship. Go on. I'll wait for your good news. Chen Meng didn't plan to follow him. He didn't want to look like an outsider coming in to seize power. Leaving this small matter for Zhang Qiudao to handle himself was enough. He had provided enough armed forces. Whether Zhang Qiudao chose to kill them or put them under house arrest later had nothing to do with him. Those things didn't matter. Half an hour later, Zhang Qiudao, wearing his Taoist robe, slowly landed in front of the mountain gate. Looking at the 3 words, Venomous Snake Sect, carved into the massive boulder nearby, his expression was complex as he strode toward the gate. Behind him were 100 level 40 armed combat robots, packed tightly like an army. Their movements were uniform, cold, and completely devoid of human warmth. Pitch-black chassis, thick, heavy armor, and clutching Gatling guns to their chests. The collective pressure they exuded was immense. 2 outer sect disciples guarding the gate saw Zhang Qiudao and respectfully bowed. Greetings, Third Elder. Zhang Qiudao just gave a slight nod and continued deep into the sect. There was a time when he really enjoyed the feeling of being called Third Elder. But after following Master Meng for a few days, he realized that the things he used to pursue were nothing more than child's play, not even worth mentioning. However, just as he reached the outer disciple area, he was confronted by a large number of disciples wielding sharp weapons and wearing sect uniforms, swarming toward him. He recognized the people leading them, several elders and the sect master of the Venomous Snake sect himself. Sect master, what is everyone doing? Zhang Qiudao frowned, asking in confusion. As soon as he spoke, a furious shout rang in his ears. Traitorous disciple. The sect master glared at him, his face dark, enunciating every word. The task I told you to do, have you done it? Or do you want to drag the Venomous Snake sect, and even the entire cultivation world, down to hell? Zhang Qiudao's frown deepened. What task did you tell me to do? Bastard. I knew you hadn't done it. The sect master's expression changed, his voice hoarse. I told you to go and erase those damn memories. Once those memories spread, it will doom the entire cultivation world. To ensure safety, I specifically told you to go to another civilization's memory bank to erase them. Don't tell me you haven't gone. Zhang Qiudao was silent for a long time before he softly said, I went. And I erased them completely. I even forgot that you were the one who told me to go. These past few days, I kept feeling like a piece of my memory was missing. I couldn't remember it no matter how hard I tried. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. He looked straight at the sect master. Sect master, what exactly is this memory that, if leaked, could doom the entire cultivation world? Could it be some kind of treasure? A treasure that makes other civilizations covet it? You erased it? The sect master froze. Then his face lit up with joy. He put his weapon away into his spatial bag. Laughing heartily, he strode forward with open arms. That's my good disciple, truly worthy of being the third elder I chose for the venomous snake sect. Since it's erased, don't think about it anymore. Let bygones be bygones. He walked over and threw an arm around Zhang Qiudao's shoulders, sighing with relief. Seeing you bring so many robots, I thought you hadn't erased the memories. You just like to overthink things. He glanced at the squad of robots. But what did you buy so many robots for? They couldn't have been cheap, right? Planning to bring them back for research? To see if they have any similarities with our puppet arts? No, Zhang Qiudao said very calmly. These 100 robots, each one has the strength of the early soul formation stage. They're for seizing power. Huh. The sect master froze in place, his breathing heavy as he stared at the 100 robots behind him. Seizing what? Each one is early soul formation. He was the one with the highest cultivation in the sect, but he was only at the first level of the nascent soul stage. But very quickly, he forced himself to react, his voice trembling. Seize power? Seize whose power? Yours, Zhang Qiudao answered bluntly. At this moment, telling him not to panic would probably be useless, because the man was already sweating bullets. The sect master quietly removed his arm from Zhang Qiudao's shoulders and took a few steps back. After a few breaths of silence, he lowered his voice, turning icy cold. I told you to erase your memories to avoid causing a disaster. But it seems you've just brought an even bigger disaster. Do they really have early soul formation cultivation? The sect master stood still, his voice hoarse with tension. That's what Master Mang said, Zhang Qiudao replied. Let me test it. Go ahead and try. The sect master took a deep breath. The spiritual energy in his body surged like a flood, his Taoist robe flapping wildly in the strong wind. His face twisted slightly as he let out a low, cold shout. The next moment, a flying sword shot out from his sleeve, carrying immense cultivation power, as if wanting to suppress the heavens and destroy the earth, shooting straight toward the robot standing in the front row. Just as it was about to hit, the robot suddenly dropped to one knee. Its fist turned into a blade and smashed into the ground. Its body was knocked back by the recoil, dragging a deep 5 or 6 meter gouge across the stone floor. But when it stood up, the armor on its body was completely intact, unharmed. There wasn't even a tiny white scratch on it. At the same time, the 100 armed combat robots simultaneously aimed their Gatling guns at the sect master. The barrels slowly began to spin, ready to fire at any moment. The sect master stood frozen, staring at the scene, his eyelids twitching madly. The killing intent from those gun barrels pressed directly against his scalp. An unprecedented, intense premonition of death gripped his throat. Cold sweat broke out and ran down his forehead. Is this Master Mang you mentioned nearby? Yes. Congratulations to the new sect master on your ascension. The sect master instantly changed his tune faster than flipping a page. Without another word, he dropped to one knee, offering the sect master's token with both hands. Can I be the first elder? The sect master had just been shouting about killing, and now he was shouting congratulations so smoothly. Truly, cultivation requires knowing when to bend and when to stretch. Zhang Qiudao looked at him and said bluntly, too much trouble. Just swap places with me. You be the third elder. That works too. The sect master nodded vigorously, then hurriedly asked in a low voice, but what exactly is going on? What does that big shot want the venomous snake sect to do? It's a long story. No rush. Let's go into the sect master's main hall and talk slowly. The sect master exhaled, but his face was still tense. I'm suddenly regretting telling you to erase your memories. This is getting more and more complicated. You haven't told him about that, have you? No. I don't remember what you're talking about. but I met Master Mang after I erased my memories. In the sect master's main hall, the old sect master sat in a side seat. He was silent for a long time before sighing. I should still tell you. It's a long story, and it's a secret of the cultivation world. He looked at Zhang Qiudao, his voice slowing down. Everyone seeks immortality. What they seek is eternal life, to ascend to the immortal realm. But after Xuanwu planet joined the Casa Federation, we found out that all the neighboring cultivation civilizations had been brutally wiped out by the Casa civilization. Only us. The Casa civilization wanted to keep us as a scenic garden, so we were preserved. He smiled bitterly. Now, the situation in the cultivation world is that the strongest experts are only at the 9th level of the nascent soul stage. No one breaks through to soul formation. At least, not on the surface. He looked up, but even those strongest ones, placed within the Civilization Federation, are insignificant. They couldn't even defeat that batch of robots behind you. The old sect master tapped his fingers on the armrest, asking pointedly, "Have you ever thought about it? Does that ascending immortal realm really exist? Why can everyone else use the ship tokens, but we can't?" Zhang Qiudao sat up straight and nodded slightly. "I have thought about it. Even after erasing my memories, I still often think about this." "Of course you do." The old sect master snorted softly. "I picked you up and brought you to the sect. Your thirst for knowledge has been much higher than others since you were a child, which is why I named you Zhang Qiudao. But as you grew up, that thirst for knowledge didn't diminish at all. You spend all day thinking about random things." He paused for a beat, his voice heavy. "Even, you actually researched and proved the existence of the immortal realm. The immortal realm is real." The old sect master enunciated every word. "There are many high-grade spirit stone mines there, and the spiritual energy is abundant to the extreme. It's just, a few years ago, it was blown to pieces by a few cannon shots from the Casa civilization. The immortal realm was destroyed, scattered across the universe. In the past, cultivators of the cultivation civilization would wait until they became immortals, and then they would be guided to ascend to the immortal realm. But now the immortal realm is shattered, and the guiding force has disappeared. No one can become an immortal." He leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice. "But the ascetic stalkers discovered a hidden passage. The guidance is gone, but the shattered immortal realm also caused the rules to fall into chaos. As long as one's cultivation breaks through to the soul formation stage, they can actively travel to the immortal realm fragments. From there, they can monopolize a massive amount of resources and rapidly increase their cultivation." Speaking of this, the old sect master looked straight at Zhang Qiudao. In other words, those soul formation experts who have disappeared from Xuanwu planet over the years have all secretly gone to the immortal realm fragments to cultivate and raise their cultivation levels. They are waiting for the day they achieve great success to return, destroy the Casa civilization, and unite all civilizations. To restore the past glory of the cultivation civilization. He waved his hand, his voice cold. "This news, on the entire Xuanwu planet, is known by at most 9 people. The actual power holders of the 5 great sects and the 3 great families, plus me." "How do you know?" Zhang Qiudao frowned. "You told me. How else would I know?" Zhang Qiudao frowned even deeper. "Because of you. You're pretty badass." The old sect master clicked his tongue, both annoyed and impressed. "You really are badass. Back then, you thought about this problem for a long time. Day after day, you researched why the cultivation civilization wasn't treated fairly, why it was so much weaker compared to other forms of civilization. You felt that cultivation shouldn't be this weak. At first, I didn't pay it any mind." He paused, as if recalling an old scene. "Until one day, you brought back a level 9 spirit stone. You said you researched something new. Based on ancient records, you created a long-lost sacrificial array. This was an array used by ancient cultivators to call for help from the immortals in the immortal realm. The more sacrificial items offered, the more help received." The old sect master looked at Zhang Qiudao, both fearful and respectful. "And you were quite ruthless. You sacrificed yourself. According to the rules, you were forcibly guided to some immortal realm fragment. But because the rules were in chaos, you didn't die. You even managed to come back, and brought back a massive amount of spirit stones. Sacrificing yourself to call for backup, and then coming back loaded with loot. Truly the kind of person that gives even the heavenly Tao a headache. This is a good thing, isn't it? Zhang Qiudao sat in the sect's chair, looking thoughtful for a long time before shaking his head. This could rapidly increase the sect's strength. Why did you make me erase this memory? The old sect master spat. Good my ass. In this entire universe, the ones most fanatical about resources are the mecha ships. If they found out, it would be like flies smelling a battlefield and swarming over. He snorted coldly. I might not have much ambition, but this news absolutely cannot be leaked. Otherwise, the cultivation world will face a great calamity. When that time comes, the Kasa civilization will be like starving wolves, swallowing the entire Xuanwu planet whole. The old sect master continued, his voice bitter and tight. Right now, the strongest forces in the cultivation world on the surface are all pouring their efforts into developing the tourism industry. But in reality, there are already several soul formation experts painstakingly cultivating in secret within the immortal realm fragments. Perhaps, in another 5,000 years, they will become true immortals, destroy the Kasa civilization, and restore the glory of the cultivation civilization. How could we stand in their way? Zhang Qiudao understood, but still couldn't help asking, since you made me erase this memory, why are you telling me now? The old sect master replied, his face heavy as lead, because compared to the 100 robots you brought back, this matter is no longer important. You've caused an even bigger disaster. Right now, I don't have the luxury to think about the future of the cultivation world, the venomous snake sect. I'm afraid it won't be able to develop any further. The old sect master was about to ask what exactly Master Meng wanted the venomous snake sect to do. Zhang Qiudao just opened his mouth, planning to give a long explanation about the marrow-cleansing pill, when right at that moment, a voice rang out from outside the hall, cold and decisive. Stop talking about unimportant things. Chen Meng led a group of people into the hall. He casually picked up a stone chair weighing dozens of pounds, set it down, pulled it opposite the old sect master, and sat down. He lit a cigarette, took a deep drag, and then looked straight at the old sect master, so serious that it made people feel a bit unaccustomed. I don't really like your analogy about flies smelling a stench, but your timing is impeccable. My name is Chen Meng. Everyone calls me Master Meng. Now, I'm more curious about this immortal realm fragment you just mentioned. Are there really a lot of high-grade resource mines there? Asking where the mines are right after entering someone's house. Truly the mark of an honored guest. The old sect master's eyelids twitched incessantly. He shot a resentful glare at Zhang Qiudao, as if saying, see, was I wrong? But in the very next moment, he suddenly erupted. Spiritual energy flared violently. The old sect master drew his sword and thrust it straight at Chen Meng's chest. What is the biggest weakness of a mecha ship? It's that once the captain leaves the ship, they are like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Anyone can kill them. Since the other party was so confident, the old sect master had no reason not to take a stab at it. Clang. The sound of metal clashing rang out. Chen Meng remained seated on the stone chair, unmoving. The blade pierced through his outer coat, striking straight at his heart. But he just lowered his eyes to look at the sword tip against his chest, his voice as light as casual conversation. It seems you've made the wrong choice. And the worst one at that. Immediately after, a massive, scorching pillar of light shot over from a distance, engulfing the entire venomous snake sect. The main light energy cannon, a cannon, fired. Blinding light poured down. The terrifying power leveled half of the venomous snake sect, completely melting half of the sect's main hall. The ground behind them turned into a bottomless abyss. The entire mountain was sheared in half. People call that a warning, but it sounded more like an eradication. The old sect master stared dumbfounded at the sword in his hand, his eyes filled with terror. Why is it like this? Why didn't Chen Meng die? He wasn't even injured. Trembling, he tossed the sword aside. He didn't beg for mercy, just let out a tragic laugh, and took a few steps back. You're all just greedy bastards. Qiudao, associating with them won't end well. I am ashamed to face the venomous snake sect, ashamed of my master's expectations. I can only atone with my death. With that, the old sect master dispersed all his spiritual energy, his body drifting like a fallen leaf toward the bottomless abyss. 10 minutes later, the old sect master knelt in front of the sect master's main hall, his face full of shame. He looked at Chun Mang sitting in front of him and muttered, "Master Mang, I knew right away you were different from those other people. Whatever you need, just give the order." That's right, he didn't die. Halfway down his fall, a mecha flew over and stuffed him into a fridge. Moreover, after learning that there were 0 casualties in the sect, because all the disciples had been stuffed into fridges before Master Mang even stepped into the main hall, he no longer had any intense desire to resist. Chun Mang leaned back in his chair, raised a hand to stop Zhang Qiudao, and looked at the old sect master. "Old man, let me ask you. Did I provoke you? Did I insult you? Did I bully you?" "No to all of the above." Chun Mang's face darkened. "Then what the hell were you trying to do?" The old sect master was silent for a long time. Finally, he looked up at Zhang Qiudao, dropped his mocking facade, bowed his head, and said softly, "Master Mang, I'll be honest with you. I don't know which civilization you come from, but I come from Xuanwu planet of the cultivation civilization. We are cultivators. We have our pride. We can't stand being treated like pets, nor can we stand our inherent killing techniques being turned into performance acts. Living under someone else's thumb is never easy. Those spirit stones in that immortal realm fragment, I don't want to hand them over to you. I want to keep them for the cultivation world, to leave a glimmer of a future for the cultivation world, so that everyone doesn't fall into complete despair. This is the truth. That's why I wanted to kill you. If you die, no one else will know this secret. There won't be a massive swarm of mecha ships flooding into the cultivation civilization like starving wolves. When that happens, countless people will die again. I'm not someone with great ambition. I just hope the world can be a bit more peaceful, that fewer people die, and that we leave a little hope for the younger generation. I didn't even let Zhang Qiudao bring back even a little bit more for the venomous snake sect, because I know my talent stops here. It would be a waste for me to use it. It's better to leave it for descendants with more potential. I know that in the eyes of captains like you, us cultivators mean nothing. You just need enough resources to easily reach the realms we can only dream of. You look down on us. You treat us like pets, like scenery for tourism, for sightseeing, watching us like monkeys in a zoo. Sounds harsh, but it's true. It's exactly like tourists coming to check in and casually swiping souvenirs to take home. But we were once glorious too. We also have our pride. We'd rather die on our feet than hand our ammunition over to the enemy. Zhang Qiudao's memories have already been erased. You can try prying my mouth open to see if you can get it out of me. If you really can, I'll accept it, and you can take the resources. As long as the ammunition remains, there is hope. If the ammunition is gone, the cultivation world will have absolutely no future left. The immortal realm fragment is the last resource of the cultivation civilization. It's the reserve ammunition for the final battle. The former sect master of the venomous snake sect would rather die than submit. The former sect master's voice was very slow, but every word was firm. He looked up at Chun Mang sitting in the chair, his expression calm. "Let me tell you, what exactly do cultivators cultivate? We don't just cultivate strength, we also cultivate the mind. We have our own Tao path to walk. We know what we live for. But you people are like a pack of greedy wolves, plundering the resources of other civilizations, casually destroying an entire civilization, treating human lives like dirt. In our culture and customs, that's called the path of beasts." Zhang Qiudao sat nearby, looking like he wanted to speak up and explain for his master, but didn't dare. The situation was just crashing straight into a brick wall. Chun Mang looked at the former sect master kneeling before him, his knuckles tapping lightly on the armrest, his voice very soft. "How many people have you killed?" "A few hundred," the former sect master answered calmly. "But I've only killed one person with my own hands. It was a long time ago. That guy wanted to steal my meditation mat. Between you and me, who is the one who truly treats human lives like dirt? Have you never used your ship to kill people? That doesn't count." Chun Mang shook his head, his expression so serious it made people want to laugh. "You might have misunderstood me. I didn't come to plunder you. We have a common enemy, the Casa civilization. I came to help you. I'm a good guy, really. Get up, the ground is cold. Why do you always like to kneel when you talk? Is this a custom too? Saying, 'I'm a good guy,' right after blasting half the sect to pieces. Truly, only Master Mang could say that so smoothly." After a few interruptions, the two sides became a bit more familiar with each other. "It sounds weird, But conflict really is the fastest way to understand one another. Chun Mang pondered for a moment, then looked at the former sect master of the venomous snake sect. Let's get this straight. Assuming you're a good guy, you guys discovered an immortal realm fragment, and inside there are countless mineral resources, meaning spirit stones. You want to hoard these spirit stones for talented descendants to use, so that one day they can overthrow the rule of the Kasa civilization and restore the glory of cultivation. Even for this purpose, you asked Zhang Xiaodao to erase his memories, not wanting to take out too much for the venomous snake sect to use. Sacrificing the small family for the greater good, right? MHM. The former sect master nodded vigorously like a chicken pecking at grain. That's exactly right. Chun Mang smirked. Then have you ever thought? Even the so-called immortal realm you talk about was blown to pieces by a single cannon shot from the Kasa civilization. What's the use of you guys cultivating more? You're clearly not on the same level. There has to be hope anyway. The former sect master remained stubborn. I believe a single spark can start a prairie fire. Chun Mang nodded, his eyes lighting up like he'd just seen, or, your little spark has arrived. Give the resources in this immortal realm fragment to me, and I'll help you destroy the Kasa civilization. How about that? You don't believe me? Chun Mang leaned forward. Doesn't the Kasa civilization have a garrison on your planet? I'll go wipe them out right now. Don't. The former sect master's face instantly changed, his voice turning frantic. I wouldn't dare. If that garrison disappears, we'll lose our lives too. The Kasa civilization's grand army will slaughter Xuanwu planet clean. The former sect master took a deep breath, looking at Chun Mang for a long time before continuing. Zhang Xiaodao is a child I cherish very much. The fact that he chose to trust you proves that you definitely have something worth trusting. I can give you the coordinates of this immortal realm fragment and allow you to send people into mine. But I only hope you promise one thing. If you really can overthrow the Kasa civilization in the future, can you migrate more population to Xuanwu planet? Right now, Xuanwu planet has too few people. Of course I can. Chun Mang was a bit surprised. Why did you suddenly figure it out? Hard not to figure it out. The former sect master glanced at the bottomless abyss next to him, a flash of helplessness in his cloudy eyes. But let me be clear, I only hold the coordinates for one immortal realm fragment. I really don't know about the others. Figuring it out like this, well, whoever doesn't figure it out is taking a one-way trip to the endless basement anyway. Easy to say. One is enough. Chun Mang chuckled and waved his hand, looking like he'd just closed a small business deal. An hour later, the sacrificial array was activated. In the back mountain of the venomous snake sect, the former sect master took out a large amount of materials from his spatial bag to set up the array. Then, he sacrificed himself along with the fridge he was carrying on his shoulder, directly opening a path to the immortal realm fragment. Soon, Chun Mang led Biaozi and the rest of the group into the fridge next to them. When they stepped out again, they were standing in the immortal realm fragment. So this is the immortal realm fragment. Chun Mang looked around and clicked his tongue. It really is a fragment. How to put it? This place was about the size of 10 football fields. No sky, no sun, no clouds, but there was enough light to see clearly. The edges were isolated by a pitch-black, twisting entity, like a living wall locking the space tight. A place so miraculous that no one knew which corner of the universe it was in. And on the ground, patches of iron and copper or veins were exposed. Not long after, Biaozi returned carrying a pickaxe and reported briefly, they're basically all level 7 mines. Level 7 mines. Chun Mang's eyes instantly lit up. In his life, the highest grade of or he had ever mined was only level 7. And a level 7 mine basically equaled an output of 10 billion resource units. There were 7 or 8 mines here, which meant about 70 or 80. No, 7 or 800 billion. It wasn't a lot, because for the planetary ship's appetite, this was barely enough to fill the gaps between its teeth. The armor still wasn't high-grade enough. Many 7-color components hadn't even been upgraded to level 200 yet, let alone stockpiling resources for a major campaign. Even so, a windfall is a windfall. Not taking it would be a crime against his resource wallet. Master Mang looked at the ore with eyes as bright as a kid seeing candy. Truly impeccable. The former sect master of the venomous snake sect stood nearby and sighed, his voice full of emotion. This is the immortal realm of the past. There was a time when the cultivation civilization was prosperous, that occasionally someone would ascend to the immortal realm. It's just that times have changed. No matter how strong magic is, it can't stop a cannon shot. He paused for a moment, then continued. The era has changed. When the tide of the era throws someone overboard, it doesn't give them a warning. The only hope is to wait for the experts of the 5 great sects and the 3 great families to one day ascend and become immortals, leading the cultivation civilization to restore its glory. While he was still waxing poetic, countless mining robots were already stepping out of the fridge next to him one after another, getting ready to dig or like they were clocking in for the night shift. Chun Mang swept his gaze around, then instructed Lao Zhu standing next to him. This place is pretty good. Once the mining is done, send someone to remodel it into a prison. In the future, anyone who needs to be locked up, just throw them straight in here. A natural barrier. Lao Zhu replied curtly. Truly a captain's mindset. Sees beautiful scenery, thinks of tourism. Sees a secluded spot, thinks of a prison. This small matter was considered settled. Chun Mang could sense that the former sect master of the venomous snake sect had just been suppressed by too many things for too long and wanted to vent to feel better. Normally, because of his status as sect master, he couldn't say things that might shake their unity. Now that he was in a weaker position, he could actually speak his mind. Chun Mang understood that feeling. That was also why he put his civilization planet on a train. Without a fixed base, he could run whenever he wanted, not controlled or pressured by anyone. 3 days passed quickly. Chun Mang led his group back to Zhongzhou City, preparing to participate in the alchemy convention held every 3 years. Might as well make their supreme-grade marrow-cleansing pill famous and make a fortune. This was the main course of the trip. Everything before was just an appetizer. It's just that there were a bit too many appetizers, which opened up their appetite quite a bit. Zhongzhou City today was suffocatingly bustling. The streets were packed with cultivators and tourists from other civilizations who came to watch. This was considered a famous festival on Xuanwu planet. Whenever this occasion arrived, people flocked here like a carnival. Next to take the stage is the inner sect disciple of Tianji Pavilion, Zhang Xianyao, cultivation at the 9th level of foundation establishment. As soon as the words fell, a wave of cheers erupted all around. Honestly, many people hadn't even heard this name before, but they cheered anyway. With a crowd this big, you gotta have hype. On the stage, a dozen alchemists were already standing. Some were cold, some were gentle, and some looked visibly embarrassed. Every time the host read a name, an alchemist would step up. As for Chun Mang, he just randomly picked a disciple from the venomous snake sect to send up. After all, his pills were basically ready-made meals. There was absolutely no need to refine them. Just go up on stage and pour coke into the alchemy furnace, and it was done. Turning an alchemy convention into a soda-mixing show. Just hearing about it. Yep, classic Master Mang. So lively. The venue for this convention was the very stadium where he and young Master Li had dueled 3 days ago. It had now been completely repaired, and the stands were packed with spectators. Chun Mang led Biaozi and the others to sit in the stands, chuckling as he watched the scene unfold before him. A life like this was actually pretty fun. Making money, watching the spectacle, and doing a little business on the side. Is it him? At this moment, in a VIP box above the stadium stands, 8 people were gathered. Looking through the glass at Chun Mang, who was sitting in the stands looking amused, everyone was silent, their faces expressionless. These 8 people were none other than the heads of the 5 great sects and the 3 great families on Xuanwu planet. Their strength might not be the absolute highest, but their power was definitely the greatest. Just one word from them could decide the life and death of countless people on this planet. Confirmed. A middle-aged man with a scar on his face nodded, his gaze firm. That day, when he and young Master Li of the Datong civilization, those 2-star behemoths, dueled here, the faint energy fluctuation emitted was level 100. His star behemoth is level 100. There's no mistaking this. I was in secluded cultivation right here at the time. I couldn't have sensed it wrong. As he finished speaking, the room fell into silence again. A level 100 star behemoth. What kind of concept was that?